can work it out. 'Cause giving in is oh so hard. When love is at stake, where there's a will, there's a way. Now if we only knew how. Learning to love, learning to laugh and fear, learning to fight through these years that bring us closer together. Learning to love, learning the first golden rule, knowing that anything is possible. 'Cause nothing's gonna keep us from, nothing's gonna keep us from learning the ropes.
I love it. Greetings and salutations, everybody, and welcome to Learning the Ropes. I'm XLJ, the OG, and I'm joined by my partner in crime, my brother from another mother, Mr. Broll.
That is
Sir,
right, folks.
how
How
are
are
you
we
today?
doing out there, world? Sorry, XLJ, did not mean to cut you off there. I am just so excited.
Already, are the viewers returning in? Why are we not in tubs? I know. We thought about
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
but it just we logically, so that's why. And plus, we
Yeah.
couldn't find a bathtub big enough. But it's okay. It's a dream. We're gonna do it at
Yeah.
some toy. So.
Yeah. One of
Hambone
these.
and Extreme League. How are you gentlemen doing tonight?
Yeah. One of these days we will do it live from the tub. It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Mhm.
But yeah,
And I just have
super
to
excited.
say that intro,
Go ahead.
Chef's Kiss. I loved
Yeah,
it. That's our new intro,
I mean,
folks.
I sang it myself. Learning the
slaps.
ropes.
It slaps, dude. It
A lot of auto tune to make my voice sound a lot better.
Better not though. I see puberty. Yes, you do get that. So, and yes, MJ, you are watching a 90s sitcom. We're just traveling back in time.
That is right.
Oh man, what is up, Ringside Anthony? How you doing? And yes, finally. So finally here on Cole TV. So happy to be here. This is our first episode here live on Cole TV, and we couldn't be more thrilled to be here tonight. And oh, what's up, Irish Reblets? How you doing? Oh, I use Rock Band to hide mine. Respect. So as always with our show, we always got to kick it off right with a little bit of a plug-a-palooza. And boy, oh boy, Cole TV. Let's talk about it. Here we are live and in color. And man, oh man, we have got so much stuff lined up coming in the next month here on Cole TV. Matter of fact, if you follow me on TikTok, I said I had 2 major announcements to make tonight. What
Not
the hell?
1, but 2, folks.
That's 2. Why don't we just get right into it? Mr. B-Roll, will you play the first announcement? Maybe.
Which one's first? I have a rundown.
The first one's the one that you have saved on here, my friend. The other one I'm playing.
Okay, the one
that you did.
We're live, pal. All right, let's go ahead and get into it.
Let's get right into it.
Hey, new home, new place. Some things may never change, though.
That's right.
Glorious. No, I won't give in. I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend. I will defend. Glorious. No, I won't give in. I won't give in till I'm victorious. And I will defend. I will defend. And I'll do what I must. No, I won't give in. I won't give in. Oh, so glorious. Until the end. Until the end.
Oh yeah, buddy. We are so excited.
Sorry.
So excited. You can tell just by you're jamming out there, my friend. But yes, we have a new show coming to Cole TV, and it is debuting this Friday. It is Friday night movie night. And we are so happy to be teaming up with the Gout Foundation. That's right, Best Gout Machine and Jay Knows Wrestling. And we're going to be watching some movies. It's something we're going to do once a month. But yeah, we're really looking forward to it. We got a really fun one to kick us off because it is St. Patty's Day. So guess what we're going to be watching, folks? The classic Leprechaun 4 in space. Because why not send the Leprechaun in space? Who wouldn't want to watch that?
Sorry, I'm laughing at the private chat.
Yes.
I mean,
I see. I just saw that. Someday.
one of these days, it's always good when you pop the boys. And yeah,
Yes.
I mean, we just so much coming to Cole TV. I mean,
That's right.
I mean, first off, the brand new exclusive Learning the Ropes is here on Cole TV now and forever. Amen.
Preach, brother. But you said it first, my friend. You said it. That's not the only thing we got coming. Check this out. Evolution is the change in heritable characteristics of biological populations over successive generations. Mankind has evolved. Throughout human history, we have seen such accomplishments as the discovery of fire, the invention of the wheel, man's first step on the moon, Michelangelo's Genesis, the Roman Colosseum, Christ the Redeemer, and whatever these column thingies are, wherever that's at. Now comes the next step in human evolution. Pro Wrestling 60! There you have it. Pro Wrestling 60, or PW60 for short. This is a show Mr. B-Roll and I have been working on for a while now, and it is finally coming to light, and actually will be coming out here later this month. But to give you an idea, what exactly is Pro Wrestling 60? So Pro Wrestling 60 is essentially a 60-minute show where we recap the week in professional wrestling. But essentially imagine like this. Imagine if the Daily Show existed for professional wrestling. That's what it's going to be. Because it's not going to just be us, folks. We've got a lot of your favorite Wrestle Talk content creators that are going to be involved in this show. It's going to be an awesome show. And we are so excited to get it going and bring it to you folks, to the masses, if you will.
Yep, that is right. In DDO, I mean, it is a bold statement to say that you can cover the entire world of professional wrestling in 60 minutes. But gosh darn it, we are going to do it. We are going to do it, and we're going to have some help from our friends. It's going to be like a mix of like your new shows meets 60 Minutes meets Saturday Night Live. It's going to be wonderful. You're going to want to check it out. But speaking of wonderful, good sir, and I know we have a ton more coming for Cole TV, and I know we have merch to plug, but you know what? I'm ready to bring our guest on.
All right.
I am ready to bring our guests on. They are sitting back there. They're waiting in the wings. No time like the present to go ahead and get them on here, and let's bring them on here. Coming in first.
Hey, what the hell you think you're doing? Remember, now you don't got me plugging that damn coffee anymore, so I'm your producer. I'm the producer, and I say when I bring the people on, okay? Now you listen to me. You and I got beef, boy, and I will come through that camera, and I will whip that ass.
Oh,
you hear
Ron.
me? You hear me, B-Roll?
Ron, chill.
I am producer. Am I not the producer? Tell me, boy.
You are. Yes, take your medicine. Take your medicine.
Thank you. Now listen.
Take your medicine.
Why don't you go ahead and bring on our guest? You have my permission.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ron.
Damn!
All right. Sorry for that interruption, but making their Cole TV Learning the Ropes debut will be, if we had a drum roll sound effect, we would play it.
There it is.
There you go. You may know him from TikTok, but Tyler Wrestles.
Hi guys,
How are you doing, good sir?
I'm doing awesome. So
All
happy
right.
to be here.
Good to hear. Good to hear. Pulling back the curtain a little bit. This is the fourth time. The fourth time. And we finally made it happen. We finally made it happen.
Yep.
We get it, though. Schedules are busy. Shoot,
Life
half the
happens.
Life happens. That is for sure. So, are you ready to talk some WrestleMania tonight, though?
Oh, definitely.
All right.
I'm excited.
Now, we have not one, but two special guests. Now, this is not their first time over on Learning the Ropes, but we figured, since we're going to primarily be talking a lot of the Attitude Era, right? We have to bring on at least one of the people from Two Dudes with Attitude, a wrestling podcast. It is the honorary dude himself, Shooting Star
up, everybody?
Press. How's
That's
everybody
right,
doing?
That's right.
How are
Thanks
you,
for-
sir?
Thanks for having me. And I know everyone's probably disappointed to see me on here. They're probably like, "We want MWO."
Yeah.
But yeah, they're probably like, "Oh, this guy, okay." But
Boo.
no, yeah, I'm happy to be here. I was the cheaper of the two options.
Our budget. No, I'm just kidding. No, we are honored and privileged to have you
Yeah.
on with us, sir. So, because we're talking
Yeah.
WrestleManias.
I mean, and he's looking
Oh.
fresh with that new haircut. I
Look at
mean,
you.
look at
Yeah.
him.
I got my
Look
church
at him.
clothes on. Yeah, I'm
Look
ready.
at him.
I'm
Yeah,
ready to
just
go
be-
to school.
Just be careful for B-roll. B-roll puts you in a TikTok and poses your face on Hornswoggle. But that's another story.
Oh yeah, yeah. Can't
another
trust
story
that man.
Hey, you all know that I have decent Photoshop skills. So you're putting this stuff
You
out
do.
willingly on the internet. So you're asking for it.
This is true. I can't say you're wrong. So, well, we are talking the histories of WrestleMania, and tonight's going to be a fun one, folks, because we are talking about some very key WrestleManias tonight. But we're going to go in order, of course, and we got to start off with a little bit of a rough run. A lot of people think this is one of the worst WrestleManias of all time. We are talking WrestleMania 11. Yeah, because we got to cover them all, folks. Now, I will say this. This WrestleMania gets ragged on a lot, but I do like the main events on this show. I don't care what anybody says. I am a big fan of the WWF title match, and I really did like Lawrence Taylor against Bam Bam Bigelow, just because it wasn't what I was expecting. Guys, I got to ask you, what are your thoughts on this WrestleMania, or do you even remember it?
Oh,
Exactly.
this-
No.
yeah.
I think.
I had to go
I
back
think,
and look at the card for this one.
I luckily
Yeah.
I pulled the card up, so I got it.
Yeah, I think that sums it up right there, almost. Honestly,
Really does. I mean, the build up for this one was really all it was about was pretty much Lawrence Taylor in the NFL, and then going up against Bam Bam Bigelow, and Shawn Michaels and Diesel and their feud.
The
going
breakup
on.
of two dudes with attitudes. Too.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Is
But
that
not you guys.
foreshadowing something?
But,
Yeah,
but not you
yeah,
guys,
not us,
right?
Not us.
Yeah.
Am I gonna have a match with MWO at WrestleMania 40? Is that what we're saying?
Oh, is that where we're going with this? Oh yeah.
Well,
Pam.
you are both going to be at WrestleMania 39. So
Yeah, so we'll point to the sign, probably stare each other down.
Yeah.
Set
There you
it
go.
up a year in advance.
I'm smelling a TikTok coming right away.
book it.
Let's do it. So, yeah, this WrestleMania, it was primarily built around the involvement of LT. But I have to say this. The matchup itself, it's no classic. But LT was able to do a lot in this match. But the real reason I love this the most, honestly, and I got to grab him, is this guy right here. Bam Bam Bigelow. I mean, if it was not for Bam Bam Bigelow in that match, wouldn't have worked. Bam Bam worked his ass off in that match, and he made it good. And it's the fact of the matter is, I mean, really, like if it was Bam Bam, like at least Bam Bam got a WrestleMania main event match. Because in my opinion, and I think a lot of other people out there agree with it too, Bam Bam Bigelow is one of the greatest big men wrestlers of all time. So kudos to him. Didn't really care about the whole $1 million team and the NFL All Pro team stuff, but it was still, like I say, it was a decent enough match. But the match that stole the show on this one by far had to have been, like you said, the match, the breakup, if you will, of the two dudes with attitude, Shawn Michaels and Diesel. But if you go back and watch this matchup, like, I mean, it's a good match, but man, Shawn Michaels oversells the shit out of stuff because he was obviously pissed off. Oh, great. Thanks, Chubby. Like, why the hell are you on my computer? Get off my computer, you asshole. Love you, buddy.
Oh, Chubby.
Oh, Chubby. So yeah. So that matchup in itself was actually, it went on to win Pro Wrestling Illustrated's Match of the Year in '95, believe it or not. But the match itself, I thought, was really good. Like Kevin Nash looked good in it. They told a good story. And then, like, Shawn Michaels kind of going over there, like, it seemed like he was going to win the title, but the referee got knocked out. And if you look at it from that into what happened the next night on Monday Night Raw with Sid turning on Shawn, it kind of laid the groundwork for him becoming a babyface, essentially.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Really? Yes. Oh, Chubby. What you guys' memories on the Shawn Michaels Diesel matchup at WrestleMania 11?
I remember it was just
Pamela Anderson.
Yeah, that's just it. Pamela Anderson at the end, and how she kind of didn't look real thrilled to be by Shawn
Yes.
Michaels.
Like, just pay me now. So,
Yeah.
But you know who did seem like they were thrilled to be there? How about Jenny McCarthy, huh?
Yeah, she looked like she was having a good time.
Yeah. And that's one thing with WrestleMania. It's always about the celebrities, it seems like. And this is one of those manias where they had advertised the crap out of celebrities. You had Pamela Anderson, Jenny McCarthy, Nicholas Turturro, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, JTT. If that ain't the 90s, folks, I don't know what was. And, of course, Salt and Pepper. They're playing LT in. Can't forget about them. But the rest of this card, oh, boy, if you want to call it that. It's got some pretty rough matches to watch, and one of those is, shockingly enough, got two of the all-time greats in it. But this match just fell flat on its face. I'm talking about the I Quit match between Bret the Hitman Hart and Bob Backlund. Of course, they were feuding at that time frame after Survivor Series, of course, and still kind of going on again, off again, but. Just not really an entertaining matchup. Just was very quick. Didn't work. Another matchup on this card saw Owen Hart and his mystery partner, who ended up being Yokozuna, go up against the Smoking Guns and defeat the Smoking Guns for the tag team titles. Which I always thought Owen and Yoko, like when they introduced them, was kind of like a weird team. But like as you watched them over time, it was like, okay, I get it. They make sense, you know. I'm all for it. I loved Camp Cornette back in those days, so why the hell not? Also, we had an Intercontinental Championship matchup with the Razor Ramon against Jeff Jarrett. An Undertaker streak would continue on here at this WrestleMania against a King Kong Bundy. Yikes. Not a good matchup.
No,
and then in your opener, you had the Allied Powers, if everybody remembers them, talking about Lex Luger and British Bulldog going up against the Blues Brothers. That's Jacob and Eli Blue, otherwise known as Ron and Don Harris. So, yeah, that was your card for WrestleMania 11. Just very weak undercard, but the main events was good. But I think that's all we really need to say about that WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Because we got more to cover, and we got some really good ones to get into.
Yeah. You know what I'm thinking in my head? Like, can you imagine back then if they had to, like, stretch it to, like, a 2-night WrestleMania?
Oh, dear God. How would you... You know what? That's the funny thing is this at this time frame, look at how depleted the roster is. It's like dude, like if they did 2 nights back then, it's like night 1's main evented by Aldo Montoya against like Bob Holly or something. It's just
Barry Horowitz.
yeah, or Barry Horowitz. There you go. Yeah, yeah. So that's a good point, Irish. I did like allied powers of Luger and the Bulldog. I thought they were a pretty good team. Duke the Dumpster would have been on the card. Yeah, yeah, and so would have Quang, a bunch of other lower card guys would have made it. But yeah, they were just grasping to get WrestleMania 11 going. But that's enough about 11. Let's talk about WrestleMania 12. Don't you sully the good name of the Montoyas. This is true. I do love me some Aldo Montoya. He was a pretty incredible guy, if I do say so. WrestleMania 12, though. Let's talk about this because this Mania is definitely, I think, is the height of the new generation. Because you have your main event matchup is arguably like the 2 biggest stars of the new generation. Talking, of course, Shawn Michaels and Bret the Hitman Hart. And that all-time classic, the Iron Man matchup. A 60-minute matchup. And if you think about it back in hindsight, how ballsy of a move was that to like be like, you know what? We're going to put a match on WrestleMania and it's going to go at least an hour. I mean, but then again, you got to look at the roster too and see what exactly they had at that time. All-time favorite main event, Shawn achieved the boyhood dream. Yep. Yeah. I mean, it is an all-time great classic matchup. In my opinion, I think it's easily in the top 5 greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. It's a phenomenal main event, and it tells a great story. They really told a great story in 60 minutes too. I mean, this is honestly, this is Shawn and Bret at their best. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this main event. And then, of course, who could forget the boyhood dream becoming a reality? Shooting Star, I got to ask you, being one of the dudes with attitudes, like as a kid, how did you feel about Shawn winning, going over and getting the belt over Bret at this Mania?
I mean, I've always been a huge Shawn Michaels fan, and I thought it was time. I mean, I thought they had done a good job building Shawn Michaels up to be kind of the face of the company. They had done a good job building him up to be something special, and I thought it was time. It was time, and Bret was the perfect opponent for him at Mania. They had that Iron Man match was a classic. It was fantastic. It was probably the best Iron Man match of all time. There's a lot of people that would make the argument that the one we just had, MJF and Bryan Danielson, is on that list, but you got to have this one on your Mount Rushmore for sure.
I will say this. I don't think any Iron Man match has come close to touching it until what we just saw with MJF and Danielson.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I agree too.
Yeah, as we were talking about that, we do a segment on the show called Fantasy Warfare, and it would be kind of curious, which Iron Man match do you think was better, but I mean, I feel like recency bias could play into that too, but yeah, it's definitely an interesting argument to have because they're both such great matches, honestly.
Oh yeah. There's another match on this card too that I think is of importance if you look at the time frame when it happened, because in like kind of your semi-main event, it's two of the other 2 big names of the new generation era. You got the Undertaker going up against Big Daddy Cool Diesel, Battle of the Big Man, or some big meaty men slapping big meaty men. Had to get that in. But I mean, it's not once again, not a classic matchup, but I mean, the story being told was very interesting. I always do remember as a kid being startled by that like moment on Raw when like Diesel opens the casket and it's like it's literally he's inside the casket, but it's like a wax thing of him and it looked so realistic. I was like, oh my God, Undertaker is messing with my head. Why are you doing this? Good times. But that was a good matchup. But this Mania, there's a lot. I mean, outside the Iron Man match, as great as it was, there's some other key moments on this Mania that happens. And I mean, I have to say this: you got the debuts of not one but two of the all-time greats made their WrestleMania debut on this show. And of course, the first and foremost, we got to mention it. This is Stone Cold Steve Austin's
Yeah.
very first WrestleMania. And actually, kind of, I would dare say, a hidden gem of a match against Savio Vega. And I always thought those guys had great chemistry. And that was Steve's like really first big feud in the WWF was against Savio Vega. But it was a fun, good matchup. The other debut, of course, we have to talk about is one of the King of Kings himself, Triple H, or at this time, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, the British snob, if you will, or from Greenwich, Connecticut. But Triple H kind of got a little bit of the short end of the deal on this one because he was going up against the returning Destrucity and Destrosity will bring you down, Triple H. I look into the cosmos and I will. It was the Ultimate Warrior, in case you couldn't figure that out by now.
Well, I learned something about the Ultimate Warrior this week.
What's that?
He's from Indiana.
Well, parts unknown in Indiana, but yes. No, actually, you're right. He was actually born here in Indiana, believe it or not. Which I don't know if we want to claim that, but yeah. But yeah, so poor Triple H, man, gets his debut match at WrestleMania and that just gets pretty much fed to the Ultimate Warrior. And you got to keep in mind too, the way Triple H's character had been built up at this point. You know, he was a pretty good heel that was like had a pretty impressive win-loss record. Matter of fact, I don't think he'd actually been pinned yet at this time frame. But he even gets his finish in on the Ultimate Warrior, hits the pedigree, and the Warrior no-sells it. He just does gorilla press, the drop, you know, and ends up winning the matchup in short, like a squash matchup. So not a good start for Triple H, but you know what? I think things would work out for him over time. And then another one we got to talk about on this card. This is another segment I loved. Got to talk about the Hollywood backlot brawl between Goldust and Rowdy Roddy Piper. Now, the interesting thing about this is, like, the build up to it, this was actually supposed to be dubbed as a Miami street fight with Goldust going up against Razor Ramon because they were feuding at the time. But Razor Ramon or Scott Hall didn't really want to do the whole angle with Goldust. Didn't really buy into the character at the time. Hey, it was the 90s, so not making any excuses for Scott Hall, but it is what it is. But thankfully, Roddy Piper stepped in and actually probably delivered a better, more memorable moment than it would have been with Scott Hall. And there's no offense to Scott Hall, but the Hollywood backlot brawl, man. What do you guys remember about that?
I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I watched that one.
Well, I just remember, my first thought as a fan was to go to, They Live, because it's one of my all-time favorite sci-fi movies, and it was I was kind of in my mind. I was like, okay, are we getting fucking Keith David against Piper at Mania? That's awesome. I want to see that fight verbatim. But it was still a fight, nonetheless, man. And you could see where they were hitting the shit out of each other. Piper just blasts Goldust or Dustin Rhodes. And I'll never forget the spot where Piper gets hit by the car.
Yeah,
and it's just it's just there's no really faking that. I mean, it's damn. And yes, Irish Red Blitz. Yes, we got to talk about how it was so hilarious that they freaking used the O.J. Simpson footage of him being in the Bronco chasing.
Oh yeah,
after
that's right.
Goldust.
I
Forgot about that.
Oh my
Yeah, me
gosh,
too.
yes. Once again, it's the 90s, folks. So what can you say? Yeah, that's right, Dad Hat. What's up, buddy?
We're live, pal.
We're live, pal. So, yeah, this WrestleMania obviously didn't have a ton of matches on the card, but everything that happened had some sort of meaning to it. I mentioned debuts. I got to mention, too, in that with Triple H.
I was going to say.
Sable, the debut of Sable in the
yeah.
WWF as well, as she came out to be his valet. And then in a backstage segment, you also see the debut of Wild Man Mark Merrow. Dad, yep. Dad Hat's busy being a
Yeah.
dad, but we appreciate you spending your
Yep.
Sunday night with us, brother.
That's the dad life for you.
There you go. One more match to mention on this card. The opener was a 6-man tag where it was Camp Cornette, the British Bulldog Owen Hart, and Fader going up against Ahmed Johnson, Jake the Snake Roberts, and Yokozuna, which is a weird three team, but whatever. I mean, really, it was supposed to be Yokozuna against Fader, but I think it was just like the chemistry wasn't quite there yet between the two big men, as well as I think they're trying to get the other guys on the card as well. Thus, they turned it into a 6-man. And hey, just to kind of throw a little bit of extra here, your pre-show matchup, you did see the Bonnie Donnas win the tag team titles, but most importantly, we got to mention it. How about that matchup between the Huckster and the Nacho Man? It was just the stupid. If anybody remembers back in the day, they used to do these advertisements for the new generation, and it was like they were making fun of WCW hard. And it
Billionaire Ted was the
yes,
guest rep too.
Billionaire Ted was the guest rep, and it was just it was funny. But WrestleMania 12 definitely is Shawn Michaels' WrestleMania for sure. And of course, who will ever forget too that entrance as well, coming down from the top of the arena, like on a zip line. And now you see so many people recreate that moment when they were riding down on a zip line at some fair or something or wherever. But WrestleMania 12, like I say, it was definitely important for the new generation. But this next WrestleMania we're going to talk about was very important because, in my opinion, this WrestleMania is what kicks off the Attitude Era, and that being WrestleMania 13. Oh, yeah, because they were making fun of the Macho or the Nacho Man. I agree. I don't know. I was okay with it at the time. But yeah, WrestleMania 13. So this WrestleMania is, honestly, if you look at this WrestleMania on paper and look at the matches, it's not really that great. But there is a match on here, obviously, that saves the card, and it makes it a very memorable one because it's arguably one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. So let's just get right into it. Talking about the I Quit match between Bret Hart and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah. Oh, yeah, we did disagree on something, but it's okay, brother. But the I Quit match, man, like this is the one time. I mean, it's been talked about so many times, but I mean, it's one of those moments, not only in WrestleMania history, but just in wrestling history in general. It's like one of those iconic moments that you remember, like Hogan slamming Andre. It's right up there when you see that image of the blood coming down Stone Cold's face as he is in agony and pain. To the sharpshooter in that I Quit matchup. True story here, folks. I actually remember this WrestleMania being the very first WrestleMania I ever actually saw live on pay-per-view. I'd be able to watch them before, but it would be like on tape or something, or like I borrow a recording from a friend or something. But this is the first one I ever actually remember watching live and in color on pay-per-view. But that moment, my gosh, like, I mean, guys, what else can you really say about that Stone Cold and Bret Hart moment?
I mean, I like you. That's one of the first pay-per-views I remember watching live, and I remember watching that match, and I didn't know when it was going to end. It just kept going, and my favorite thing, although that Bret has always done, is when he put Stone Cold around the ring buckle, and then do the
figure four.
Yeah, the figure four on the ring buckle. That was just turnbuckle. That was just always awesome.
Yeah.
I think this is maybe the first match he ever did that in. Maybe I want to say.
It might have been that I can remember.
I think awesome. So. But and of course it's that moment. It's that classic like switch, the switcheroo, where Stone Cold becomes the babyface and Bret becomes the heel. And I mean, it really just shows you how like that Attitude Era, what it was all about, literally, where it was like the traditional bad guy who does all these like terrible things. That's who you're rooting for. But if you look to the seeds were been planning for Bret Hart to go turn heel, over the past couple of months. You losing to Austin in the Royal Rumble matchup, then losing the WWF title to Psycho Sid, and then losing the cage match to him, and him going off and cutting a promo on Vince McMahon and etc. But still though, like it's just very very interesting to see, and it's like you don't see those type of moments all the time in wrestling. They're few and far between, but it's definitely the moment that made in the matchup that made this show. Because, like I say, I gotta be honest, the rest of the card I felt like was a little weak. Now let's talk about our main event here. The WWF title's on the line with Psycho Sid defending against The Undertaker. And of course, this would be a part of the Undertaker streak, but this would really be like the Undertaker had won the WWF title before, but he'd never really gotten like a full run with it. And this would be kind of the kickoff for the Undertaker to really have like a good long run with that WWF title. One cool thing I like about this, if you look back on the history of it, the Undertaker, this was this was actually the last time he would wear his traditional like gray gear, because at the time he was kind of going to like the darker colors and stuff, but he brought it back for one night at this WrestleMania, and just how apropos it was the Mania where he won the WWF title. Another one of so this card was really kind of being billed as like a triple main event. So another match on this card, talk about a car crash. The Chicago Street Fight with the Nation of Domination. We're talking Farouk, Crush, and Savio Vega going up against Ahmed Johnson and the Legion of Doom, Hawk and Animal. And I just never forget like the call on this matchup, and they're like, because like literally I think Road Warrior Hawk walks out with a kitchen sink. And there's like, oh my God! I think JR's like, oh my God, he's got the kitchen sink too. Oh my God! Just like, yes, he does, JR. Because why wouldn't he? But this one, like that matchup itself was, it was crazy too, because that matchup followed like the submission matchup with Brett and Stone Cold. It's like, could you imagine like going on next and you got to follow that? But I will say, with everything that they had, like I thought those trios teams brought it, man. They did what they could. And once again, it's not a classic by any means, but I do remember one moment. I think it was like Road Warrior Animal was like trying to pile drive Farouk through like the table or something, and like the table like just wouldn't break for whatever reason. Or maybe it just like broke too soon or something, but I just remember that kind of like, I don't want to say botch, but just that like little snafu like always sticking out to me. I don't know. Boy, I told you before this show you were not going to bring that shit up, okay? This is like one of my best WrestleMania moments, man. Why the hell you got to rag on me? I'm producing this show for you. I'm going to walk the hell out. Yeah, Ron, I'm sorry, dude.
He is grumpy tonight.
I'm always grumpy. Now do your damn jobs. Sorry. Anywho, let's talk about the rest of this WrestleMania card. So we had a tag team title matchup. Boy, this was like a weird matchup for the tag titles. Owen Hart and British Bulldog, the champions, defending against Mankind and Vader. It's like, okay, let's just get them on the card. What the hell? Also, which actually, if you watch the match, it's not a bad match. It's no classic. It's just kind of like, it's there. You also have the Intercontinental title matchup, and we got to talk about this too. We're talking debuts. How about the debut of the jabroni beaten, pie eaten, The Rock made his WrestleMania debut at this WrestleMania. Of course, which I think they actually, on an episode of it not too long ago, they actually talked about this. But it was The Rock against, or Rocky Maivia defending the Intercontinental title against the Sultan, which, if you kids don't know, the Sultan actually was Rikishi. So he's actually going up against his cousin. But what was kind of memorable about this one is you saw Rocky Johnson like on screen for the first time in forever, pretty much. And he come out to make the save to save his son. But that not a classic matchup, but I mean, at least okay, The Rock got on the card and made his debut, and we know he would go on to greater things. That's for sure. And we're going to get into much greater moments here, of course, folks. A couple other matches on this card. You had Hunter Hearst Helmsley against Goldust, and your opener matchup was a fatal four-way elimination match for number one contendership for the tag titles between the Headbangers, Doug Furnace, and Philip LaFawn. The new Blackjacks, Blackjack Bradshaw and Blackjack Wyndham, and yes, that is JBL we're talking, and Barry Windham. And, of course, the Godwins. And the Headbangers would actually win this matchup. But WrestleMania 13 definitely is most memorable for the Austin Bret Hart matchup. But let's get on here and move on, onward and upward, on to bigger and better things. In this WrestleMania, this next one, now this one's a good one. This one to me, okay, if this was like the beginning of, if 13 was kind of like, was hints and sprinkles of the Attitude Era like going, WrestleMania 14 is the Attitude Era is like full blown, full force going. Guys, gotta ask you, WrestleMania 14, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think like what you said, the Attitude Era started at 13, but I think this really defined the Attitude Era. You had Stone Cold Steve Austin won the Royal Rumble, had a hell of a main event match against Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania. This was, you know, the Mike Tyson WrestleMania as well.
Yep.
That everybody remembers. Yeah, I think this is low key, and also, you know, the Kane and Undertaker, you know, that whole thing started too, which is one of my favorite storylines of all time. And it, you know, this was the first time they had gone at it at WrestleMania. So yeah, I think this really defined. This is when they really started getting behind storylines and really getting into the Attitude Era, if you will. So
I think it really put them back on the map because
yeah,
they were so down. And this, honestly, to some people's extent, they said this actually kind of saved the company in a way, how well WrestleMania did and brought in so many more viewers, which started before then. But yeah, it was a big moment for the company.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, this with Tyson's involvement was a big part of it, but just like, you know, the foundations being laid, because this is the Austin Era begins at this WrestleMania. Like, this is his official, like, you know, okay, you are the guy now. And I mean, over the past year, if you look at the journey from Stone Cold from WrestleMania 13 to WrestleMania 14, it's just really wild to watch and see. To him being like a top babyface, but not even like a top babyface, but becoming like the most over wrestler in wrestling history, period, in my opinion. I mean, we all remember it. We all lived that Attitude Era. Like, everybody was a Stone Cold fan. Even if you didn't like wrestling, you knew who Stone Cold was, and you knew you liked him. And you knew you wanted to flip the
Even
bird.
if you like WCW, you like Stone Cold.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's talk about that main event. So the WrestleMania 14 main event, the Stone Cold Steve Austin challenging WWF champion Shawn Michaels. And it's just interesting to look back on because like this match almost did not happen. Because if you look back in the history, Shawn Michaels did have that serious back injury he suffered at the Royal Rumble, which ultimately would cause him to retire pretty much for 5 years. But you know, just that, and the fact that it was Shawn Michaels being Shawn Michaels. You know, literally, you've heard the stories over before of how the Undertaker literally was like in the backstage, like taping his hands up just in case if Shawn wasn't going to do the right thing. And then, like, literally the match ends and Taker takes the tape off of his hands. It's like, okay, he did the right thing. I also remember, too, like, the aftermath of this, they had, like, a press conference afterwards. And, like, how Shawn, like, just pretty much was just, like, being an ass, more or less. And I know, you know, I'm not the biggest Shawn Michaels guy, but I mean, it is what it is. He would come on back though, thankfully, and like have a very redeeming career. And I mean, he's Mr. WrestleMania, and we're going to talk about a lot more Shawn Michaels moments these next couple of weeks here on Learning the Ropes. But,
Yeah, it may have been a good thing that MWO wasn't on, because he would not take any Shawn Michaels slanders. But I also got to say, when are we going to learn that press conferences after a pay-per-view, it's just not a good idea?
yeah, this is true. This is true. Unless you're eating pickles, then
I'm
it's
gonna say
okay.
pickles got over pretty well this week. A couple weeks ago here. So.
Oh, that fucking pickle!
You want a pickle?
Yeah, it sounds delicious right now. But I want to touch back here too on another we mentioned, the Undertaker and Kane matchup and that feud. My God, it's a lot of people will say and I think still, and I agree that I think it is one of the greatest storylines, if not the greatest storyline of all time, is the Undertaker and Kane. So, wait a minute. I just have a thing for guys who have meltdowns at press conference. Shawn Michaels, Punk. It's all good though, brother. It's all good. Yeah, you know what? That's a good point too. He was in a very dark place. I mean, obviously on the drugs with the back injury and stuff. So yeah, it's a good. There's two sides to every story. So, but anyways, let's get back to it here. Like I say, want to talk about the this Taker Kane buildup. I mean, we all remember it. Hell in a Cell, Taker appears. That's gotta be Kane. And just the way they built Kane is this like quiet, just monster destroyer of people. And anytime he would get involved with people, oh man, it was he just destroyed him, and it was just awesome the build up. Oh yeah, The Rock and Hogan, yeah, and we're gonna talk about that one here in a little bit too. But yeah, I felt like this storyline was one of the greatest of all time. What do you guys think?
No, I agree. I mean, that was like you said, it was probably one of the greatest storylines ever. I was pretty hooked on it, and I couldn't wait to see what else is next. And honestly, I was worried. I was so Team Undertaker, and I was worried he was going to get beat. And I was just like, I don't know. I was fearing for the Undertaker going in. That's for sure.
Yeah, where are the burns? This is true.
Yeah, I remember being invested in this, and I was only like 13, maybe 11 or 12 or 13 whenever this Mania hit. I can't remember. I'm old now. I can't even remember how old I am now. But I kept thinking that I legitimately thought Kane and The Undertaker were brothers for the longest time. I thought they were real life brothers. I didn't realize that was part of a story. I didn't realize that they were never brothers. And that it was just acting. I legitimately thought they were brothers. That's how invested I was into this story. And I thought it was very well done from beginning to end, with Paul Bearer's inclusion, just all of it. I thought it was all great.
Yeah.
I guess one last point I just remembered is when The Undertaker had to give Kane 3 pile drivers to beat him.
Yes, exactly.
And I thought that was crazy as a kid.
Yeah, because at the time nobody kicked out of the tombstone. It's like, what? He kicked out once? Okay, that's crazy.
Yeah.
He kicked out twice. Like, what the hell is he gonna do to beat him? But yeah, that's one of the things that always stuck out to me about this man. And let's face facts. This is 1998 we're talking about here, and folks, you didn't really see false finishes like that back in the day. I mean, now it's more of a common occurrence, but back then, that shit didn't happen. You got put in a tombstone. You got put in Sweet Chin Music, Sharpshooter, Stone Cold Stunner. That was it. You weren't kicking out. So, yeah, that whole thing was just crazy and just put over. And that just goes to show you, too, there's definitely a time and a place for that. And this definitely was the time and the place, because it's that classic, okay, Undertaker goes over, but Kane got over, So, yeah, that matchup, man, it's just incredible. But hey, there's some other matches on this card too we got to talk about as well. Some really good ones, and one of my favorite ones I got to talk about, man. How about the dumpster match for the WWF Tag Team titles, with the New Age Outlaws going up against middle-aged and crazy Terry Funk and Cactus Jack, or Chainsaw Charlie? I'm sorry. this matchup is just like a car crash of a match, just like for the violence and the brutality of it. And I'll never forget the imagery of Terry Funk driving a forklift, and it's just like, good God, Terry Funk should not be driving a forklift. And then just like him, like, so they put the Outlaws in the dumpster, and they put the forklift on top of it. And he's going back and forth, and then he gets off of the forklift, right? He's being beaten on the dumpster. He's like, I got him, Cactus, I got that son of a bitch. Just fucking love that.
Oh, Terry Funk. So many memorable memories.
Yeah, and this was actually Terry's only his second WrestleMania, believe it or not. He had competed at WrestleMania 2. Yeah, he did get a little bit of a WrestleMania moment by having this matchup. Other matches on the card we're going to talk about here. Your Intercontinental Championship was on the line as The Rock defended against Ken Shamrock. And I always felt like those guys had excellent chemistry too. The Rock and Ken Shamrock. I always enjoyed it when those guys got together. It was always a good time, always good matchups. And then we gotta talk about the celebrities involved with this WrestleMania too. And we did kind of skip one. We definitely got to go back on and talk about here. But the celebrities involved in this one was Jennifer Flowers, and I know a lot of you people are like, who? Well, you got to keep in mind that, in the 90s, Jennifer Flowers was, involved with, a big scandal with our president back in the day, President Bill Clinton. So, yeah. But the other celebrity we got to talk about, Pete Rose. Because, folks, this would begin the streak. Maybe not, the Undertaker streak, but a streak nonetheless in WrestleMania history of Pete Rose getting his ass beat by Kay. Because I just remember, at the time, Pete Rose comes out, he gets his shit in, he's, getting heat and stuff, and Kane comes out, and he's just looking at Pete, kind of like that puppy dog kind of look, with the head tilt, and then he just tombstones Pete Rose, and just Jim Ross is called, my God, he tombstoned Pete Rose! Just love it. And he would do it at 2 more WrestleManias, which we're going to talk about here in a couple minutes. But rest of this card, let's run her down. How about this mixed tag team matchup with Wildman Mark Merrill, or I guess Marvelous Mark Merrill at this point, and Sable going against Luna Vachon and Goldust. And this match was all about Sable, pretty much. Sable was definitely the top draw in this matchup. Everybody loves Sable. But I tell you who I feel and respect the most out of this matchup is Luna Vachon. Because if you don't have Luna in this matchup does not work. She made Sable look damn good. She made Sable look like a fucking champ. And I mean, she's somebody in the history of pro wrestling who doesn't get nearly enough credit. Rest in peace, Luna Vachon. But incredible WrestleMania performance by her. Also, let's talk about the WWF European Championship between Triple H and Owen Hart. Of course, Triple H a part of DX at this time. So, and then Chyna was handcuffed to Sergeant Slaughter as part of this matchup to cause her not to interfere. Of course, she still found a way to interfere because she's the 9th wonder of the world. So why wouldn't she interfere, right? And then, of course, also on this card, we had a couple other matches. Opened up with a battle royal, a tag team battle royal. It was won by the newly repackaged LOD 2000. Because, folks, that was a thing back in the 90s where you just slapped 2000 on the end of something and it was so futuristic and awesome. But as much as I love the Legion of Doom and the Road Warriors, this just really didn't work. And one more matchup on this card, and it's a little bit of a hidden gem matchup. I highly recommend you check out Taka Michinoku against Aguila for the light heavyweight championship. It's on this card as well. But yeah, I can't say enough about WrestleMania 14. I mean, it is a great WrestleMania that is really personifies this time frame of the Attitude Era. Now let's fast forward 1 year later to WrestleMania 15. And you know what? Are you ready for a hot take, B-roll?
Let's go.
I'm going to give you a hot take right now. Some of you may agree. Some of you probably are going to disagree. I'm going to go ahead and say it. this WrestleMania kind of sucked. It's not a good WrestleMania, man. Yeah. Oh God, Techno Team 2000. There you go. Oh Lord. Shout out to Matt. How you doing, buddy? Yeah, this WrestleMania is really not that great. I mean, it just there's some stuff that happens on it, but it just feels like it was just shit thrown together to be put on the card. Now the main event is pretty decent. It is the very first Rock versus Austin matchup we get at a WrestleMania, so it's important for that. Here's a funny side story for you, Mr. B-Roll. If you notice and you watch this matchup, Stone Cold comes out to the ring wearing a T-shirt and not his normal vest. Well, it's because he actually left his vest at home. So he had to come out like wearing a T-shirt, which was uncharacteristic of the Texas Rattlesnake.
Yeah.
But
Would you say? Do you think this is the worst WrestleMania?
no, it's not the worst, but it's like if you had me ranking them, well, I don't know. I'd have to think about it. I would probably say it's in the top 5 worst, honestly.
top 5,
Would you be down to, since we're over here on the YouTube, would you be down to do a poll for all of our viewers out there?
Let's do it. Let's do
Is
a poll.
WrestleMania 14 the worst ever?
15.
Or 15?
I don't think it is, because I think the next one we're going to talk about, I think that's the worst one of all time.
I'm
Ooh.
kind of that way too.
We're gonna end poll. We're gonna
Rest-
end poll. We're gonna start a new one.
B-roll. Here's what I want you to do. Do this. Which
What?
WrestleMania is worse, WrestleMania 15 or WrestleMania 2000?
Remember, you put 2000 at the end of things, and it makes
Yeah.
it hip and futuristic and cool. And like LOD 2000, that did not work
No.
for that mania.
No. It just both of these manias feel like just stuff is just thrown together to get guys on the card, and it's just it's
Yeah.
meh. It's as MJF would say, it's very mid. But this WrestleMania, like I say, you had the main event with The Rock and Austin. That's cool. But Undertaker and another classic on this one. How about the first Hell in a Cell at WrestleMania? You think it'd be pretty special, right? No, it wouldn't. It was the Undertaker against the late great Big Boss Man. Not their finest moment. And I just remember the whole shit with like the Brood coming down at the end of and they were hanging the Big Show or the Big Boss Man, because you know this is satanic, evil like Undertaker at this point. But terrible matchup.
The poll is up as well, and it's 50-50 so far.
Okay, you all vote. Put your vote. WrestleMania 2000 or WrestleMania 15, which is worse? Yeah. So definitely am not going to say the worst ever, but I agree with Shooting Star. 16 sucks ass. Yeah. It's a pretty bad one. But let's run down this WrestleMania 15 card though. So we have let's just kind of go from the beginning to the end, right? So your opener is a triple threat match for the hardcore title with Hardcore Holly going against Al Snow and Badass Billy Gunn. Like what? Why is Billy Gunn's the hardcore champion? Like, fucking what? Okay. Well, shouldn't they be challenging for the tag titles? No, they're not going to challenge the tag titles because you know what? On the pre-show, let's have a battle royal, and whoever the last 2 participants are, even though they're not tag team partners, they're going to challenge for the belt. So, in a classic booking move, how about this? D'Lo Brown and Test, the winner of those battle royals, because those names make so much together. Makes so much sense together. Going up against Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett for the tag team titles. This feels like a Sunday Night Heat match at this point, folks. And this actually, sadly, would be Owen Hart's last WrestleMania, as unfortunately he would pass away a couple months later after this. Also on this card, you had, how about the Brawl for All match? Butterbean against Bart Gunn. Yikes. Like, this is just like I don't know what they were seriously thinking. Like, okay, yeah, Bart Gunn's going to be able to like have a chance to. It's like, no offense to Bart Gunn, but I mean, Butterbean. Well, in the immortal words of Chris Tucker, you got knocked the fuck out. That's what happened in this matchup. Hey, the Big Show going up against Mankind, where the winner would go on to be the referee in the main event, which that was a clusterfuck. And yes, let's talk about, you're right, CR. Billy and Road Dogg were in singles matches because the Road Dogg would be in a 4 corners elimination match for the Intercontinental Championship, defending against Goldust, Ken Shamrock, and Val Venus. See, this card, it's just like, what the fuck? This really feels like I just created this card on WrestleMania like 2000 or something. Like, what the hell? Oh, WrestleMania 2000's winning. Wow. Okay. Respect.
WrestleMania 2001, it lost.
Oh, it did win. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it lost.
Wow. Well, let's get the
Well,
rest of this card.
It
go ahead.
won, but it lost because it was
Yes.
considered worse than.
Yes. Well, we're going to get right into that. And yeah, you're right. Billy did go on to win King of the Ring later, a couple months after this. But let's get the rest of the card down here. Kane against Triple H. Sable against
Kane had-
Corey.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Kane had China with him
That's
in
right.
Triple H. Yeah,
Yeah. And
against
there was,
in that match against Triple H.
yeah, and there was like, oh, China's come back to DX, and that would last the whole 2 matches, because then Triple H would leave DX as he would turn on he'd turn on X-Pac against Shane McMahon. Now, before we move on, that is the one saving grace on this card outside the main event. Shane McMahon against X-Pac is actually another hidden gem of match, I would say. It's a pretty decent matchup, and interestingly enough, it would be Shane McMahon's first matchup he would ever have on pay-per-view. Was at this WrestleMania, and it's not a bad matchup. It's like you went into it thinking Shane was going to get his ass beat, but no, Shane could go, man. It's just crazy to think that now because we all know what Shane McMahon's capable of. But all right, that was WrestleMania 15. Let's just jump right into it because you all love it so much. Let's talk WrestleMania 2000.
Here's where the.
Fuck.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
Yeah, this is, and once again, this is another one of those WrestleManias where just shit is just thrown together, and it's like, let's see what happens. First of all, I think one of the most notorious things on this card, this is the only WrestleMania in history to not have one singles matchup on the entire card. And no, I'm not counting the damn cat fight between Terry Runnels and the cat as a singles match.
I was wondering
okay?
about that.
Not counting it. But this WrestleMania, oh man. So the main event is like just a clusterfuck. So like the big tagline going into this WrestleMania was like a McMahon in every corner. So it was a fatal 4-way match for the WWF Championship with the champion Triple H with Stephanie McMahon, his wife, in his corner, going up against the Big Show with Shane in his corner, The Rock with Vince McMahon in his corner, and Mick Foley, the newly reinstated Mick Foley. Because remember, a month prior, he had lost the damn retirement match to Triple H. But it's like, we need you one more time, pal. In his corner, though, was Linda McMahon. So you had a McMahon in every corner. The match itself, it's okay. It's just okay. It's not a WrestleMania caliber main event matchup. That's for damn sure. And then the whole Vince turning on Rock at the end, like, oh, I didn't see that coming. It's like, fucking really? That's like the best you can come up with. Come on, man. Come on. But the main event, just very subpar. If you want to be technical, I guess the semi-main event was Kane and Rikishi against X-Pac and Road Dogg. Like, why the fuck is Kane and Rikishi a tag team? I'm so confused. Like, it's just like, well, Rikishi's there, and he does, like, dances with Too Cool, and he shows his ass, and he sticks his ass in people's face. Yeah, let's just get him in there. Why the hell not?
It's gonna be good shit.
It's good shit, pal. Trust me. Oh my God, I gotta backtrack a little bit. We completely forgot about Pete Rose's moment at WrestleMania 15 because Pete Rose would continue the streak of getting his ass beat by Kane. And WrestleMania 15, in that match we talked about earlier with Kane and Triple H, is probably like the best moment with Pete Rose because he comes out dressed as the San Diego Chicken and jumps Kane. And you're just like, what the fuck? Why is the San Diego champ in number 1? Why is he there in 2? Why is he jumping Kane? And then after that, in this matchup we're talking about at WrestleMania 16, well, technically it was the semi-main. We're going to talk about that matchup next year too. But Yeah, so the San Diego Chicken comes out at the end of this matchup, right? And you're just like, okay, it's Pete Rose, we get it. And he does like the too cool dance, and then like Kane's just not having it, and he's getting ready to choke slam the San Diego Chicken, and then Pete Rose appears out of nowhere with a baseball bat, and of course like gets thwarted, like gets gets tombstoned essentially again, and the streak ends of Pete Rose getting tombstoned not once, not twice, but 3 years in a row at WrestleMania. Oh. There you go. But there is 2 matches on this card that actually are really good. And in my opinion, it's because of these matches is why I technically rate 15 a little lower than this Mania. But the first one being a triple threat matchup for the Intercontinental and European titles, with Kurt Angle defending both his titles against Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit. This is a pretty good physical matchup. Of course, like 3 guys who can definitely go, 3 great technical wrestlers. And the way they did it was like the first fall was for the Intercontinental title, and the second fall would be for the European title. And the funny thing is, Kurt Angle would lose his belts, but he would not be pinned in either of the pinfalls there, which is interesting. But let's talk about the best match of by far on the card. Let's talk about the triple threat match, the ladder match for the tag team titles, with Edge and Christian challenging the Dudley Boys and the Hardy Boys. If anything, folks, in my opinion, this match saves this card, because this is the very first time these teams are ever meeting in a ladder match. Guys, we're gonna get into TLC, of course, here, but what do you remember about this matchup?
I just remember as a kid, or I guess I was in high school then, but I guess I'm still a kid now that I'm old. I don't remember ever seeing anything quite like it. I mean, I didn't have the exposure to like ECW and some of that stuff that was going on, and I just remember I couldn't believe some of the stuff they were doing and how they weren't like dead or getting hurt. And
Right?
I mean, some of those falls, I was hurting at home, and I just couldn't understand. It was just crazy.
Yeah, because you got to keep in mind, too, if you look back at the history of this and ladder matches, especially at Mania, too, like, my God, Shawn and Razor, what they did, there's no way anybody could ever top that. But it's like, holy shit, they turned it up like umph degree in this matchup. You were seeing spots and stuff you never dreamed of seeing before. It was just a crazy matchup. And it was great, too, to see Edge and Christian get their first tag team title run, or their win, which would be one of many to come. But that definitely by far is the highlight of this show. But to give you an idea of how bad this card is, let's just run down the whole card, okay? In addition to these matches we mentioned, your opener was The Godfather and D'Lo Brown, played in, by the way, by Ice-T, because pimpin' ain't easy, man. Pimpin', and you won't see that on Peacock, just FYI. Goes straight to the God. It just goes straight to the Godfather and D'Lo in the ring. You're like, what the fuck, man? Anyways, they're going up against the tag team of the Big Boss Man and Bull Buchanan. Huh? Yes, they were a tag team for a very short period. Also, I do got to mention this one because this is kind of a comically fun one. How about the Hardcore Invitational for the Hardcore Championship? This was like essentially like a 15-minute time limit match. And it's like it was just whoever had the last pinfall by the end of it would be hardcore champion. And I just like everybody, I think, who was in this match won the match at some point. Like everybody from Funaki to one of the Mean Street Posse guys to Viscera, Taz, Hardcore Holly, Crash Holly. And of course, Hardcore Holly ultimately would win this matchup. But actually, funny story is behind that. They messed up the finish on this in this matchup. Originally, Crash was supposed to go over, but they fucked it up, and like Hardcore actually ended up winning the match. But he would drop the title the next night on Monday Night Raw. But then again, who really gives a shit? It was the Hardcore title. So. And then another tag team classic. How about this one? TNA, Test and Albert, with the debuting Trish Stratus making her WrestleMania debut, going up against Head Cheese. What is that you say? Who is Head Cheese?
What?
Well, we're talking the team of Steve Blackman and Al Snow.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember the most out of this matchup is like they came out with a mascot, Chester McCheeseton, I think was his name. But it was literally like a guy in a cheese suit, and for whatever reason, on the backside of him, his ass was exposed. But hey, it's the Attitude Era, because why the fuck not? So.
That's
And I mentioned it before, there is a cat fight on this show with the Terry Runnels going against the cat. And a six-person intergender match with China and Too Cool going up against the Radicals, Perry Saturn, Dean Malenko, and Eddie Guerrero. But with these matches, you can kind of see why a lot of people think this is one of the worst WrestleManias. And like I say, you got no argument for me. It's a pretty bad one. I mean, it just, yeah. I mean, one thing I will say about this Mania too that I remember at the time watching it as a kid. This was the first time they did this. They had something on pay-per-view where you could buy WrestleMania all day long. And it was literally like it started at noon and it was like just highlighting like past WrestleManias and stuff. But what was cool about it is they also like were live from WWF Access and stuff. I just remember. And I remember Ivory and Michael Cole were the host of this. So just a little tidbit for you there. And yes, Head Cheese. We need Head Cheese in the Hall of Fame. So. But it's okay. Now we got the bad out of the way. We're going to get into some of the all-time greats. But before we get into that, Mr. B-Roll, we kind of skipped this. I think we need a real quick plug-a-palooza.
I think we do indeed. Before we get into the meat and potatoes of it, we do want to let you know we thank you all for joining us over here on Cole TV. If you have not done so already, please go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. It helps us out tremendously. I'll let you in on a little secret, XLJ. When we started our live stream, we were at 207. We're up to 212 now.
Kobe! Well, thank you all for joining us. We appreciate it. And we got a lot of fun stuff lined up for Cole TV. As a matter of fact, let's talk about it, man. This week alone, let's talk about what we got coming up. So, if you missed it earlier tonight, we made an announcement. We've got a brand new show coming, Friday Night Movie Night, where Mr. B-Roll and I, we are going to be teaming up with the Best Gout Machine and J Knows Wrestling, the Gout Foundation, and Cole TV teaming up. And it's going to be just a fun show where we're going to watch some really bad movies and just have a good old time. Because like Mr. B-Roll says, who wouldn't have more fun than watching a movie with strangers you met on the internet? Am I right?
I mean, come on. And I mean, if you are unaware of our good friend Best Gout Machine and J Knows Wrestling, like
you need to follow them.
They are hilarious, honestly. And when you get like the combination of everybody, and not necessarily in the same room, but I mean, we're just gonna kick back. We're gonna watch crappy movies, and basically, it's gonna be a lot of fun. We've already kind of like did one, and then we also did like a video chat, which was supposed to be a meeting, and it turned into hilariousness, which may or may not get released at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gonna be a ton of fun. We have the first one coming this Friday, right?
That's right, this Friday. But guess what? That's not the only thing coming out this week on Cole TV. We also have coming up this Wednesday, we got a very special vlog coming to you. It's our Louisville Arcade Expo vlog, where I got to check out the Louisville. Try saying that 3 times fast. Arcade Expo. It was a pretty fun time. A lot of cool stuff. You guys are really going to dig it. That'll be coming up this Wednesday. And hey, let's just talk about the future of Cole TV, because, folks, in the next month is going to be crazy. We've got so much stuff coming at you. You're not even going to know what to do with yourselves.
Personally, I'm already tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're just getting started.
And yeah, it's going to be it's a good one. It's a good one, buddy. CDC. It's really good. So next week, it is going to be, I don't know why we're doing this, but we're going to let him take over. It's going to be Chubby Week on Cole TV. So we're going to have a new Chub Life. It's his birthday. I told him it would be okay. So we're going to have like a new Chub Life, a Chubby, he's doing some sort of retrospective or something. I don't know. he's got something lined up, and of course you'll be able to catch Learning the Ropes as well next week. But
Wait,
that's going to be.
hold on. Is Chubby a part of Learning the Ropes too?
I
You
did
gonna have
tell
him
him I would
Talk
give
about his
him.
favorite WrestleManias.
Oh yeah, he's going to come on for a brief because he wants to plug some stuff, among other things. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting week to say the least. But assuming we don't get kicked off the air after that, holy shnikes, WrestleMania week on Cole TV is going to be nuts because we are going to have literally a show every day that week because we are going to have Learning the Ropes. It's going to be the debut. If you missed this, we've got oh yeah, bow to me. Yeah, we'll see about that, pal. We got a brand new episode show we're going to do called Pro Wrestling 60. That'll be debuting March the 27th. And then after that, we've got some special vlogs coming to you, wrestling related. But I'm also excited to announce this too. We are going to be doing not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 days straight. We're going to be doing watch along streams on Cole TV where we're going to be doing reaction shows where we're taking in all of the big events of WrestleMania weekend. That's right. We're talking everything like from some of the GCW shows to Impact New Japan's Multiverse of Madness. Yeah, that's right. PW60 does make me moist. Makes all of us moist, I think,
buddy.
in a good way. But yeah, we're going to be doing watch-alongs to all those shows. The Joshi Pro Wrestling Show. It's going to be a fun time. And, of course, the main events, the WrestleMania Nights 1, and all be coming to Cole TV. But wait, there's more because a couple weeks after that, we're going to have our Squared Circle Expo week, Cole TV too, where we're going to have a lot of vlog specials coming to you from Squared Circle Expo 3 in Indianapolis, where Mr. B-Roll and I will be attending. But you get the point, you get the drift. There's just a ton of awesome content coming to you in the next month here on Cole TV.
Most definitely, indeed. And then we also got to plug a little bit of our merch. As you see right here, this beautiful shirt right here, this Cold TV shirt. I'm so proud to wear your head on my chest, good sir. But go on over to Sweet Doll Face Creations, XLJ the OG. If you could be so fancy and try to throw that in the chat. I've been trying to, and it's not letting me for some reason.
I got you, brother.
So I don't know why. It's just not popping up, but it is what it is. But we have tons of merch over there. We have Cole TV merch. We have Learning the Ropes merch. And maybe, just maybe, there will be more merch coming soon. A little bit of a teaser for you there.
Oh, a little bit of a tease.
Little bit
I
of a
like it.
tease.
Does Chubby have merch?
A little bit of a tease. You may never know what's going to happen.
Maybe coming soon. Let's put
You
it
never
that
know
way.
what's going to happen. But then also, just, before we, continue on, I'd also like to thank these two for joining us this week. Go follow them on the TikTok, Instagram, whatever it may be. I believe they both have their usernames right there. Shooting Star Press, Tyler.wrestles. Go follow them. Excellent content. Excellent content indeed. I know Shooting Star Press, you do your show, Two Dudes with Attitude, with our good friend MWO, who's been on Learning the Ropes before as well. That is live here on YouTube and Twitch on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock Eastern and Fridays at 1 o'clock Eastern. Wednesdays is WWE and Fridays is AEW.
AEW.
Nice. Look at you. Yeah.
See,
That's all.
I tune in.
Yeah, you pay attention. Yeah,
I pay attention. I've been a guest before.
Yeah, you're one of two special guests that we've had. So, but yeah, like you said, we go live Wednesdays and Fridays. Go follow us. Go subscribe. We're right here on the YouTube. We're on Twitch. Podcast is Two Dudes with Attitudes, and we're just two guys who talk wrestling, and we break down WWE. We break down AEW. We have pretty cool segments, and we give our 2 cents on certain things going on. So, and I live in North Carolina, and I'm flying across the country here in a few weeks to the great state of California because I'm going to be going to WrestleMania 39 and I'm going to try to put some vlogs up on YouTube of our time in California. MWO lives out there, so we're probably going to try to do a live podcast. We may go live in front of SoFi Stadium. I think that's what it's called. I don't know, SoFi. We're going to go live in front of the stadium. And we're just going to have like a table in the back of our car and just fold it out and do our podcast out there and see what they do. We have challenged the Young Bucks to a game of 2-on-2 basketball too, and they're going to be there. So hopefully they'll respond to us. But yeah, come check us out. Two dudes with attitudes. More to come about Armenia excursion, but it's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, and it looks like CR Media is going to be there.
Sweet, yeah, definitely.
As well, yeah, yeah, definitely. It is, when you go to like those big pay-per-views and stuff like that, it is a lot of fun to be able to, get to meet those fellow content creators. I know last time at All Out, we got to meet like Simple Nicholas, CDC, and it was just awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so definitely have a blast at Mania, my dude. I know you're excited.
I am.
I know I'm
it's
excited.
The first Mania I've ever been to.
Yeah,
so it'll be.
I'm excited for you. A little bit jealous, but that's okay. And then Tyler, do you have anywhere else besides like TikTok and Instagram where you have content?
I am pretty much TikTok, Instagram. I do have a YouTube channel. I do occasionally post on. I have been debating doing more on there and kind of more longer form stuff. But yeah, those are my main things. And I guess I don't know. I've been debating. I don't know if you guys have all know this, but obviously I've kind of slanted more towards the women's wrestling aspect of things because I don't know. I've always loved women's wrestling. I just think there's not a lot of people that really focus on that. So I'm kind of niching into that and doing a little bit more of that stuff. So, but yeah, that's pretty much all you can find. But I still comment on everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, there you go. That's the beautiful thing of Wrestle Talk is, there's basically somebody that covers everything. So
Yeah.
There you go.
But you're gonna have an awesome time shooting star out at Mania. Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. And we got to shout out our buddy too, Brian from Developmentally Speaking. He'll be out there too with coverage as well.
Yeah, I saw that. He got media passes and stuff.
He did.
So
he'll be actually talking to some WWE guys. So,
yeah, that's awesome.
And gals. Yeah. I can't wait for WrestleMania weekend, man. It's gonna be. It's always hell. Let's call a spade a spade. It's not WrestleMania weekend anymore. It's WrestleMania week. And there's just so much going on in the California area. But speaking of WrestleMania, let's get right back into it because it's time to talk about the WrestleMania I know you've all been clamoring and wanting to talk about. It is oftentimes referred to as the GOAT. Let's talk about it. Just one more fight. I'm talking WrestleMania 17. Let's go. Okay, B-roll, you did a poll earlier. Let's put this up right now. Is WrestleMania 17 the greatest WrestleMania of all time?
Okay, and just a yes or no?
Just a yes or no.
Okay.
Just put yes. That's the only answer.
It is yes.
Yes. I was getting ready to ask you, gentlemen, but yes. Yeah. There's some good ones, but shit. WrestleMania 17. WrestleMania 17. If you ask me to define the Attitude Era, it's WrestleMania 17. As great as 14 was, WrestleMania 17 is just the definitive from top to bottom. It has it all. And in a way, if you look back on the history of professional wrestling and the WWE in general, I think realistically speaking, this WrestleMania marks the end of the Attitude Era. So you gotta keep in mind, like about a year later, we're really getting into Ruthless Aggression Era. But I mean, this is kind of the end of it because WCW's out of business. They bought WCW. ECW's out of business. Like WWE's pretty much won the war essentially. But man, this WrestleMania, my God, this WrestleMania. Let's just get right into it. First and foremost, we got to talk about that main event. The Rock against Austin, Part 2 at WrestleMania. And definitely, I think a lot of people say it's the best match they ever had at WrestleMania. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's seven. I rated 17, and then 19, and then 15. 15 was my third favorite of the three, even though that was the
Yeah.
first one that we got.
I agree.
I think 17 definitely took the cake, and especially the twist at the end, as crazy as it was with that. The fans didn't want to boo Stone Cold. They didn't. They couldn't boo Stone Cold, but he was
Especially
turning
being in
heel.
Texas. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so that was it was an awkward
So
ending because he was turning heel, but everyone loved him. Everybody was still cheering for him. But this was the best match of the three for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this matchup, like you say, that finish with that just what you never thought you'd see Vince McMahon and Stone Cold Steve Austin hugging each other. Like, what the fuck? Like, no, that's not. It just didn't feel right.
So,
I mean, and they did a good job with it, as good as they could do, but it's just they were almost put in a nearly impossible task to like
Yeah,
make that work. Really, I mean, they did the best they could, but it just, I don't know, it just still to this day is a hard pill to swallow. But
and
that main event,
I do think it would have worked. And I know we're going ahead a little bit because they did form the 2-man power trip with Austin and Triple H, but then Triple H tore his quad, and that kind of derailed everything a little bit there. So I think it could have worked if they had kept that duo together of Triple H and Austin.
that's a shooting star. That's a really good point. Yeah, if those guys would have still stayed together and not the injury happened to Hunter, it
Yeah.
does make it interesting to wonder like how that would have went. But I just feel like a lot of the thing was just the focus of like the WCW stuff and the
Mhm.
whole alliance against the WWF. Ironically enough, if you want to put a bow on it, really that the alliance kind of that storyline kind of killed the Attitude Era in a way, in my opinion. Because it's just like you had built it up in your mind for so many years of like what it would be like if WCW's top guys go against the WWF's top guys, and it sure as shit you weren't expecting guys, and this is no disrespect to them, but guys like Chuck Palumbo or Sean Stasiak or just these other guys are just kind of like really they're like kind of grasping straws here. But yeah, I do feel like it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if Triple H did not get the injury. But this WrestleMania is loaded. It's not just Austin Rock. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about the match that everybody talks about, the match that stole the show, and one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. It's TLC 2 between the Dudleys, the Hardys, and Edge and Christian. And man, if you thought the match at WrestleMania 16 or WrestleMania 2000 was something, holy shit. My gosh. Oh, do we got results on the poll, B-roll?
we do.
All right, let's see it. Is WrestleMania? Oh, 66% yes, 33 no. Okay.
No, it's no.
Oh, it's the other way. Say no. Interesting. Okay. Sorry, I'm an old man. I can't read, but
It's okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I'd be
I
curious
wonder
to
which
know
one-
what would be the choice
Yeah, that's
to
what I was
replace
wondering.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this TLC 2 match was freaking bonkers. It's like, how do you top the match from WrestleMania 2000? How do you top TLC run from SummerSlam 2000? You do it with this. I mean, my God, the spots in this matchup, holy shit. I mean, you still, when you're looking at highlight packages and stuff, you still see that image where Edge spears Jeff Hardy in midair. I mean, it's just like, talk about scenes. My God, was
Plus,
the best. Oh
plus
yeah.
Lita and Spike Dudley and the Rhino all getting involved, and they got beat up too.
Yes, and them being involved in it, and so interesting. It's all work said no just because of the undercard. Well, I don't know. I think there's some good matches on the undercard. I think that's what helps the case of WrestleMania 17 being the GOAT. But let's talk about, like I say, the TLC match though. Seriously, holy shit, that's just such a and for it to be the match that stole the show on this WrestleMania, that just goes to show you how talented those 6 individuals were. And like you say, Tyler, with the addition with like Lita and Spike Dudley and Rhino getting their stuff in, it was a car crash, but it's a very enjoyable matchup. Also, we got to talk about the How about this? The first time meeting at WrestleMania, The Undertaker and Triple H. And I thought that was a phenomenal matchup. Going out in the crowd, beating the hell out of each other. I mean, it's kind of like, if you look back, we talked about earlier, like WrestleMania 12, how you had Shawn and Brett, and then you had Diesel and Taker. It's kind of like a similar situation. You got your other top two guys who are major main event players in the Attitude Era with Triple H and The Undertaker. And this was that was a great matchup in itself too. Some other fun ones on this card as well. What about father versus son? The street fight with Shane McMahon going up against Mr. McMahon. It's no classic, but once again, it's a fun matchup, I think. Like, especially with like the whole Linda McMahon shit where she wakes up out of a coma and kicks Vince into grapefruits. And then, like, I'll never forget Shane doing like stealing the fan Terminator off of Rob Van Dam, man, and going coast to coast. That was a pretty crazy thing to see, and the involvement of Stephanie McMahon and Trish Stratus in that feud as well. But you're talking about the undercard. Come on, man. You got to talk about this all-time WrestleMania classic, one of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time. The Gimmick Battle Royal. Come on now. With Bobby Heenan and Mean Gene Okerlund on color commentary and just the stuff Bobby Heenan was saying, talking about like, what was the line? It was so great. Mean Gene said something about like, I haven't seen the Iron Sheik or something since my mother-in-law or something, and then he makes some comment about like, well, back in the day, everybody got your mother-in-law or something like that. I don't know. It's just funny. Just classic banner between those two. But but I mean, just seeing all the different like old gimmicks come out and shit, and the Iron Sheik, win the battle royal. It was just a fun moment. It wasn't great,
It's
but
cheeky, baby. It's
cheeky, baby.
Yeah, it was awesome.
But in all seriousness, here's another hidden gem of a matchup on this card. You got to talk about Kurt Angle and Chris Benoit one-on-one, and the chemistry those guys always had, and that matchup at WrestleMania was incredible. Oh my gosh, a technical masterpiece. I think it's like less than 15 minutes, but damn, it is some of the like best 15 minutes of technical wrestling you'll ever see at a WrestleMania card. That's for sure. Another matchup to talk about I thought was a very enjoyable one. It's a car crash of a match, but it's fun for what it is. What about the triple threat match for the hardcore title with Kane, The Big Show, and yes, Raven? I just remember this one from like the backstage stuff where they were like, I think they threw Raven through like the glass window, and then they threw Raven through a wall or something. Mm-hmm. And then just like, I remember Raven like being chased down like by Kane on a damn golf cart and stuff. Like I say, it's a hardcore title match. It is what it is, but it's still kind of a fun matchup to have on the card too. And let's kind of run down the rest of the card. Your opener was Chris Jericho against William Regal for the Intercontinental Championship. It's just an okay opener, nothing spectacular. Then you had the Taz and the APA going up against the Right to Censor in a 6-man tag match. And speaking of Right to Censor, you had Ivory defending the Women's Championship against China in a squash of a match as China would just destroy Ivory. But that was WrestleMania 17. But, like, man, yeah, I agree. Raven for the Hall of Fame. I feel like Raven's going in next year. I feel like it's got to happen. Raven and Tommy Dreamer need to go in Philly, man. Let's make it happen. But, like I say, man, I love it mainly, this card mainly just because of just all the storylines being told. Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot. There's another matchup. Eddie Guerrero against Test for the European title was also on this card too. But overall, gentlemen, is WrestleMania 17 your personal favorite? I know we talk about it as the GOAT, but is this your favorite?
Yes, for me it is.
Yeah, I think it's mine too. I think it had something for everybody, and the ending was, that was the first time in a while I remember there being a twist of an ending there wasn't. Yeah, there was a clean finish, but there was that twist of Austin joining McMahon, kind of made you want to tune in to the next night. And then the Triple H Undertaker match, that was great. Just everything about it was great. From start to finish, it was entertaining.
Yeah, it's a really well done card. All right, so let's go 1 year later, and let's go all the way to Toronto, to the Sky Dome for WrestleMania 18. And this is kind of like this WrestleMania is really kind of the kickoff of the Ruthless Aggression era, if you think about it. A lot of matches on this card. I think a total of like 11. But it was kind of like there was 4 big ones that stuck out. But we got to talk about the match everybody talks about. When you talk about WrestleMania 18, the moment they go to Icon versus Icon, The Rock one-on-one with Hollywood Hulk Hogan. And I got to be honest, at the time, I was not watching wrestling. I was not watching the WWE, so I missed this Mania. But like I did obviously go back and I've watched it over the years, of course, but just like I'm not, and y'all know if you follow this show, you know me, I am not a Hulk Hogan mark. I can't stand Hulk Hogan. Cannot stand him. But I got to give the devil his due. He does a phenomenal job in like reading the crowd in this matchup along with The Rock. I mean, them being smart enough to kind of just take it all in at the beginning of the matchup so you could really realize the significance of what you were seeing. Because, I mean, you talk about it all the time, like a passing of the torch moment, really. I mean, this is honestly one of those moments. So, my honest opinion was this: do Hogan and Austin and the Outsiders for Rock and Sock. Oh, okay. Yeah, because the Austin match did kind of fall through, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But, I mean, just like that crowd, man, was just so into this matchup and so into Hulk Hogan, too. Like, which is so crazy to think, because when Hogan left in 93, it was just like they were so fed up with Hogan. But, like, 10 years later, it's just like what was old is new again, right? So that matchup, man, and just you talk about WrestleMania's past and where the crowd makes the match. This by far, like, there may be some others out there I'm not thinking of, but this is the first one I gravitate towards, to where the crowd really made this matchup all the more special. What are your guys' thoughts, or what you remember about this Icon versus Icon matchup?
Yeah,
This was.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say that this was the match to me that led to my favorite version of The Rock ever, which was the formation of Hollywood Rock. And he always tied back to this Hogan match where the crowd was cheering for Hogan. Even though The Rock was the people's champion, they were cheering for Hogan over The Rock, and he never let that go. And to me, that's what started the Hollywood Rock gimmick, and that's my favorite version of The Rock ever. And I wish that if he ever comes back, he revisits that character from time to time, because I think it would be a perfect addition to the WWE now.
That would be interesting.
That's exactly what I was going to say too. So
I always loved his the music change up too, right? When he came back,
Oh,
we
yeah.
could see this at 19, where he comes out to the the skyline and stuff, the helicopter shot stuff, and then you get the slow build, and then it's cooking, and just the slow down tempo of the Rock's theme. Loved it. But you guys are right, man. This definitely kind of was like the groundwork for that. And interesting too, I think their plans originally was to keep like Hogan and the NWO kind of together, and obviously after this, it's like, okay, we got to capitalize on Hulkamania running wild again. So that's kind of where we would go. But obviously, other matches on this card we got to talk about as well. And boy, oh boy, how hard of a task was it to follow that damn matchup? But you would have the main event be Chris Jericho defending the Undisputed Championship against Triple H. In hindsight, this really is a pretty decent matchup. It just the crowd was just so exhausted from the Hogan Rock matchup, man.
Yeah.
And you even had like a kind of a match before this even to kind of like, give you a little time to breathe, so to speak. But still, that crowd just could not get into Triple H against Jericho, which is a shame too, because like I always thought they had a really fun rivalry between those two guys. And this was odd because it involved Stephanie McMahon in it, but Stephanie being in the corner of Jericho. Because, folks, if you look back on the time frame here of watching, for years, Jericho and Stephanie feuded with each other. They were like bitter rivals, and then all of a sudden they're working together. It was just kind of like a really weird situation. Not quite, but kind of similar to like how Vince McMahon and Stone Cold become, partners, if you will. But the main event, it was, like I say, it was a good matchup. It was harder than hell to follow Rock and Hogan. Now there's some other matches too. I would look at this as they kind of build it as like 4 real big matches on this card. And you guys, and I think Irish said something about this earlier with the Hall, Scott Hall, because Scott Hall would actually go on to be the opponent of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Love both competitors, but it didn't really work. If you look at the time frame where Stone Cold was and where Scott Hall was, it wasn't as magical of a matchup as it could have been. Now, the one thing I will say this, outside of The Rock, I think Scott Hall is my favorite person to sell the stunner. I love the way the Scott Hall would take a stunner, man. It's like, just loved it. You would see that multiple times in this matchup. But there is a matchup on this card I want to talk about that I really enjoyed, and I think it kind of, as far as like in-ring storytelling and the physicality, it's honestly probably my favorite match on the entire show. And that would be the matchup between The Undertaker and Ric Flair. And the thing is, if you listen to Flair's interviews in the past before, this is like, at this point, Ric Flair is like, just is not himself. He is not like, he just doesn't have any confidence. But The Undertaker specifically requested to work with Ric Flair at WrestleMania. I mean, if that tells you anything of the greatness of Ric Flair. And honestly, man, I think they had a great matchup. Like, it was a bloodbath. I'll never forget when Arn Anderson come out and hit the spine buster on The Undertaker. I was just like, yes, Double A is back, baby.
Yeah.
And then he took out his gun. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't. He wasn't packing that night. I don't think. But yeah, and of course Ric Flair going down to The Undertaker being part of the streak there as well. But let's kind of run down the rest of the card, because the rest of the card really isn't that great. I mean, it's okay. It's not bad. Like, we've talked about way worse WrestleMania cards than this one tonight, that's for sure. So your opener is for the Intercontinental Championship with William Regal defending against Rob Van Dam and RVD. Mr. B-Roll, your guy, would win his first Intercontinental Championship at this WrestleMania. Diamond Dallas Page against Christian for the European title? Okay. I guess we got to get DDP on the card. But here's an interesting fact about DDP. You know, DDP has actually only appeared on camera at 2 WrestleManias, and both of them was at the Skydome, because he actually drove the pink Cadillac for the Honky Tonk Man out at WrestleMania 6, believe it or not.
Interesting.
Yeah. Also on this card, the Hardcore Championship with Maven defending against Goldust. Yes, Maven, the Maven who won Tough Enough. I just remember with that Hardcore title, the segments all throughout the night. Do you guys remember that? Where like the Hardcore title kept changing hands, and then like Molly Holly ended up winning it from the Hurricane, and then Christian oh no, Molly hit I think Molly hit the Hurricane with like a frying pan to win it. And then I think Christian like slammed a door in front of her face to win it. And then you think Christian's going to walk out of Mania as the Hardcore champion, but Maven gets his title back by the end of the night. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, you still hate Maven. Well, if anybody remembers Maven, I think they're not the biggest fans of him. No offense to Maven. But also, how about this one? Edge against Booker T. Now, on paper, okay, that's cool. But here's the thing, B-Roll. You know what they were fighting over in this matchup?
Was it something on a
Tyler
pole?
is laughing. No, because Vince Russo wasn't booking. But let me tell you what they were fighting over for this matchup. They were fighting over the rights to be in a Japanese shampoo commercial.
Oh, right. I
Because-
forgot about that.
Because why
you
not?
Gotta,
Oh.
you gotta be making this up.
No, I kid you not. I kid you not. So it was Booker T against Edge. Like, we got to, okay, guys, we're going to put you together at Mania, but we got to figure out, like, what kind of beef. Why can you have a beef? Well, they both have long hair. Okay, let's just say they're fighting over a shampoo commercial. There we go. That'll work. That's some
Now-
good shit, pal.
Now tell me that a commercial actually came out of this, right?
I think there's like behind the scenes footage where they're quote unquote like auditioning for the commercial, but no, nothing ever really like came of it. But boy, oh boy, it would be funny if there was some footage out there unseen. I would laugh my ass off. That would be amazing. How about this one though? Kurt Angle against Kane, the wrestling machine against the Big Red Machine. This is another one I'd say is kind of a hidden gem. People forget about of this matchup. It's a pretty decent matchup with Kurt Angle going up against Kane. And we also had a 4 corners elimination match for the WWF Tag Team titles with Billy and Chuck going up against the APA, the Dudley Boys, and the Hardy Boys. And shockingly enough, Billy and Chuck would retain. Because remember, it's that time frame, kids. And, well, that gimmick was over. And then a triple threat match for the WWF Women's Championship with Jazz defending against Trish Stratus and Lita. Now, here's an interesting tidbit for you, Mr. B-Roll. Until this year's WrestleMania, this is the actually only in-ring matchup for Lita at a WrestleMania. Was at WrestleMania 18. But thankfully, she's going to get to rectify that a little bit this year as she will be teaming up with Trish and Becky Lynch to go against Damage Control this year at WrestleMania. But that was your WrestleMania 18 card. Like I say, mainly it's the most memorable for the Hogan and Rock moment by far.
I would also say I think it's memorable for. I think it put the death nail officially in WCW. I know WCW went out of business the year before, but if you look at the card, Undertaker defeated Ric Flair from WCW. Edge defeated Booker T from WCW. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeated Scott Hall from WCW. The Rock defeated Hulk Hogan from WCW. The only WCW guy that won for whatever reason was DDP against Christian. But all the other
who doesn't like DDP?
Right, of course, yeah.
Such
he's
a nice guy.
lovable. Yeah, he's a good guy. But yeah, I think this, and I also think this WrestleMania for me was the start of the infamous quote unquote golden shovel from Triple H, because I think a lot of people think that Chris Jericho probably should have retained that undisputed championship, and that Triple H didn't really need it.
It's an interesting fact. Yeah, that's true because let's get right into it because the next one we're talking about is one of the most infamous golden shovel moments. But
yes,
this is a WrestleMania that's gotten a lot of love over the years. And it's weird. The time I saw this, I thought it was a good one, but this goes down as like one of everybody's favorite WrestleManias. And we're talking about WrestleMania 19 from Safe Ghost Field in Seattle, Washington. And this, I would say, if you asked, okay, what's the definitive WrestleMania of the Attitude Era we talked about, the definitive WrestleMania of Ruthless Aggression Era, this may be it. I mean, there's a couple of good ones after this, but I mean, this is a good one. And CR Media, I should have, that's a good point. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing about DDP. Because if you
I remember that Positively page. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah. But guys, what I heard you kind of talk earlier, mentioned like 19 is one of your favorites as well. What are your thoughts and why do you hold WrestleMania 19 so near and dear to you?
Okay.
Yeah, either.
I guess just the big moments, I would say Rock Austin was still, I mean, I always like seeing Rock Austin. It wasn't what we got previously, obviously. I was a Brock Lesnar mark back then. Like, I was all about Brock, but then when Brock did that shooting star press, that moment lives in my head, is exactly where I was sitting, what I was watching, and I was like, he might have just killed himself. I mean, I just, oh man, it was just so brutal and so bad. And let's see, I'm trying to remember, was this, I'm getting my pay-per-views mixed up. Was this Jericho and Michaels? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right
Michaels
there.
was back.
Yeah.
And that match, I mean, I've always loved Jericho, and I was kind of like you. I was not the biggest Michaels fan, but I was happy to see him back.
hmm
And that match was just epic for me. I love that match.
we've talked about a lot of show stealing matches throughout the history of WrestleMania, and that match with Jericho definitely steals the show on this card, because I mean that wasn't even like kind of part of the big quadruple main event they were really building on this WrestleMania. And Shawn Michaels, Chris Jericho by far is the best match on this card, man. And in my opinion, honestly, love him or hate him, this really kicks off the true definitive era of Shawn Michaels as Mr. WrestleMania. Yeah, and yeah, that's true. Even Hogan and Vince wasn't a bad match on this card, because I mean, you think about it, it's like the two top, the two guys who helped create WrestleMania, right? Like, but seriously, fuck Hulk Hogan. But anyways, and fuck Vince McMahon for that sake. But hey, we're not talking about that. We're talking about WrestleMania 19. But yeah, let's talk about the street fight with Hulk Hogan against Mr. McMahon. It's definitely not a Shawn Michaels Bret Hart classic. It's no Luthez matchup or anything like that. But I mean, for what it was, as far as us telling a story, I'll never forget that image of a bloodied Vince McMahon looking up at ringside, and just the evil maniacal like look on his eyes. You saw it was like a thing out of a horror movie, man. Just like crazy. And kudos to Vince for like that spot where he jumps off the damn ladder and does a leg drop through the announce table. I was like, holy shit, man, that is crazy. And then of course the surprise of Rowdy Piper showing up in this matchup. The street fight had a little bit of everything in it. It was, once again, it's no classic, but it was actually a more enjoyable matchup than I thought it would have been. Yeah, and yes, yeah, Piper showing up. But in addition to this WrestleMania, let's just kind of run down to the main events here, and we'll get to the rest of the card. One of the big moments, of course, we didn't know this really at the time, but now we do in retrospect, the last match of Stone Cold Steve Austin at a WrestleMania. Well, I guess obviously that changed after last year, but still,
We're not there yet. Gosh darn it! That's next week.
No, that's a week. Yeah, we're 2 weeks out. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Because that's how we're breaking it down. Yeah.
All right, we'll get to it eventually, folks. But yeah, this, like, not knowing the story of the significance of this, because if you don't know the story behind this, folks, essentially that match came so close to not happening because literally Steve Austin was in the ER the night before, having some serious health issues, because at the time he was just like, painkillers or whatever, those type of whatever medication he was taking. Plus he's like chugging like cups of coffee, like pots of coffee and like energy drinks,
Yeah.
just like stuff like that, just like shit you shouldn't be putting in your body, especially in like excessive amounts.
That and beer, right?
Yeah, that too, yeah. But yeah, WrestleMania, like, this would be the last Rock versus Austin matchup ever. And to finally have the trilogy and finally have that moment where The Rock gets his shine, The Rock gets his moment. And I'll never forget the end of that match. You can see plain as day that they're talking to each other, and you find out years later, pretty much Rock was just telling Stone Cold, "Hey, I love you. Thanks for doing this for me." Like what an amazing moment from their amazing rivalry. And I agree with you, Shooting Star. I do rank this. I think you had this ranked as the second best one out of the, or was
Yeah,
I'm
17,
with you.
19, 15, I think.
Yeah, I'm with you. And all three are great matches, but hey, we talked about it earlier. The main event, the true main event of this show, Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle one-on-one for the WWE title. And I just remember the build-up for this because it was like the first time them ever meeting, and it was like just wrestler versus wrestler. These truly great, athletic, gifted, in-ring technical masters like going at it in the main event. And this is another one, B-roll. This matchup almost didn't happen because Kurt Angle had a lot of injuries and going into this matchup. But by God, they delivered one hell of a main event. And then, interesting enough, here's another bullshit fact for you here, my friend. Did you know this main event with Brock Lesnar versus Kurt Angle is the first WrestleMania in history where the main event matchup was actually between two competitors who were using their real names?
Really?
Like, no kayfabe here, brother. Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
first actual Mania where it's like legit, like that. This is who they are. But this matchup it's an incredible matchup, and yes, we got to talk about that insane spot with Brock Lesnar and Kurt Angle and the botched shooting star press, and it's just like how Brock Lesnar's not freaking human at all. And just remember the look on Brock's face after the finish of the match. It's like he's gone. He has no idea where he's at. Like if Brock Lesnar wasn't the athlete he was, he would have easily broke his neck, man. Easily. Just a crazy matchup, crazy main event. But you, Shooting Star, you kind of mentioned this earlier. Let's go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room with this WrestleMania, that golden shovel of one of the biggest bullshit like decisions. One of the hottest talents in the WWE at this time frame was Booker T, and Booker T losing to Triple H for the World Heavyweight Championship at this WrestleMania. Plain as day, it should have been Booker T should have went over in that matchup. And then the storyline build to it. Our good friend Extreme League Wrestling just put out a video on his YouTube channel. Shout out to him. Go check him out. But he had this as the #1 most cringiest moment in WrestleMania history. And I kind of agree, man. Just because like the storyline was just awkward. They were playing the race card, and it's just like, oh my, like, ugh, yuck. We don't need to be doing that shit. Especially not like at this time frame. This was 2003. It's like, come on, man. Like, really? Do better than that. But like Booker T, would you guys agree Booker T should have went over in that match?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. Should have won.
Absolute bullshit. He didn't go over. And of course, we talked about the show-stealing matchup with Shawn Michaels and Chris Jericho. But let's talk about the rest of the card here. Some other matches on this Mania. The opener was a really good one, and as I CR mentioned this, yeah, the Cruiserweight title with Matt Hardy against Rey Mysterio, and this would be Rey Mysterio making his WrestleMania debut at this WrestleMania. And I'll never forget the gear, man, because if you know Rey and you've watched him over the years at Mania, he always does like a superhero like type of theme for his gear. And this year he came out at his very first WrestleMania. He came out to some Daredevil gear, which was pretty badass. But hell of an opener for the Cruiserweight Championship. Not really a great matchup for The Undertaker on this show, though, as he would end up ultimately going on in a handicap match. Originally, this was supposed to be a tag match with The Undertaker and Nathan Jones going against A-Train and The Big Show, but Nathan Jones not nearly ready to wrestle, just still too green, so they made it a handicap match, and it's just like, okay, well, The Undertaker streak continues on, so at least there's that. A triple threat match for the WWE Women's Championship with Victoria, the champion, defending against Jazz and Trish Stratus, and Trish Stratus would win the Women's Championship on this night. And a triple threat match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships with Team Angle, that's Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin, defending against Los Guerreros and Chris Benoit and Rhino. Okay, let's just put them together. Why the hell not? So, yeah, he was supposed to be the next Brock, and he did not live up to it at all. But WrestleMania 19 is definitely one of those most beloved WrestleManias. Guys, let me ask you, would you say it's in the top 5 best WrestleManias of all time? You kind of got to think about it for a little bit, but I think it's got a good argument.
It's close, I would say, if it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's up there. I think it's got to be. You had the Hollywood Rock gimmick. You had the last match of Stone Cold. You had the street fight with Vince and Hogan. Yeah, I think the Shawn Michaels Chris Jericho match. Yeah, it's got to be up there. It's got to be up there.
I think so. I think it's a fair argument. Well, we're going into overtime at this point, folks, but thank you all if you're still with us. But we got one more WrestleMania to talk about here to finish us up tonight. And I'm going to just go ahead and say it. This WrestleMania probably to me is the most near and dear to me. This was the one WrestleMania where I actually Like if I'm gonna be real with you. Like I was actually like the most invested in like in tears by the end of the night. It's WrestleMania 20. And of course, this one's a hard one to talk about because of the person who it's their WrestleMania moment, because what ended up happening in real life years later. And of course, the elephant in the room, we're talking about Chris Benoit. Oh, wow. CR says it's the most overrated Mania. Okay. Well, I'd be curious to know why you think that. But, I mean, hey, to each his own, you know. But I'll admit it, I was a huge Chris Benoit guy. Chris Benoit was my favorite wrestler. And when all that stuff happened, I'm not going to lie to you guys and gals, like, I stopped watch wrestling for years because of that, because I was so devastated. That's still devastating. It still fucking sucks. Because in ring, Chris Benoit was one of the all-time greats. Regardless of the shit that happened in real life with him, it is what it is. But like, if you just put yourself in the moment of this at this time frame, because like Chris Benoit was just so damn good in the ring. He just never got his chance, never got his moment. And then, like, here you are, WrestleMania 20, where it all begins again, right? In Madison Square Garden. And a hell of a main event matchup, too. The triple threat matchup between Chris Benoit, Triple H, and Shawn Michaels. Yeah, it's just, it's a hell of a war. A hell of a war. I'll never forget the finish of this matchup, too. How Benoit's got Triple H in the crossface. Triple H counters out of it, and you think it's like, oh my God, it's like, damn it, it's not going to happen, it's not going to happen. And then, like, finally he gets him back in it again, and like he does eventually tap out, and Chris Benoit gets that moment. But the moment of the night by far is Eddie Guerrero coming out at the end with his WWE title he retained. Chris Benoit winning the world title, and then just having that moment where they're in tears, hugging in the ring. It's one of the all-time WrestleMania moments.
I was crying.
It's just such an incredible moment. Regardless of what happened after the fact, it's still like one of my favorite WrestleMania moments is that finish of WrestleMania 20. But so other than the 2 championship matches, the rest of the matches are absolutely mediocre. Okay, well let's talk about the other matches, because I do want to come back and talk about Eddie and Angle, because that's a good one. But I want to say this. I think there's a really great hidden gem matchup on this card that is a really good one, and I'm talking about Christian against Chris Jericho. The storyline was really enjoyable because the build-up was like they were partners, and then like Chris Jericho got into Trish, and then like Jericho, ended up like you thought he was going to get with Trish, but then Trish turns on Christian and turns on Jericho and ends up joining up with Christian. But the in-ring match was great too, but the storytelling was awesome too as well. Now, some of the other big matches that were advertised for this show, and CR, I'm going to give you this. There are some shitty ones on here, and the biggest one's probably the Goldberg against Brock Lesnar. And yes, Christian is so good as a heel.
Heel Christian is best Christian.
Abso-freaking-lutely. Yeah. But the Brock Lesnar Goldberg matchup, the build up to it was like, oh my God, this is going to be some amazing matchup. But it's kind of one of the first moments I can think in Mania, like as far as like where the dirt sheets kind of came to life, because everybody knew Lesnar was leaving the WWE. So that crowd in Madison Square Garden just turned on Lesnar, and they really didn't give a shit about Goldberg either, because hell, Goldberg's contract was getting ready to come at the end too.
Yeah, he was leaving too. I think the dirt sheets had leaked that both of them were leaving.
Yeah.
At the time,
so to kind of help counteract that, they put Stone Cold Steve Austin in as the special referee for this matchup, and it helped, but it's not a good matchup, honestly. Like years later, they would get redeemed Lesnar and with Austin was the referee on that one, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's funny, years later, what was it, WrestleMania 33, I think it was, where Lesnar and Goldberg would meet again and actually have a true WrestleMania-worthy matchup. But yeah, that matchup just really fell by the wayside. Also, we got to talk about the return of The Undertaker, as this was like not American Badass, but this was like the Undertaker, old school Undertaker, returning with Paul Bearer to go up against Kane. And the build up to that was fun because just like you didn't know what Undertaker you were getting, and you were hoping it was going to be the Dead Man. And granted, it was like kind of a modified version of the Dead Man at the time, but still, at the end of the day, it was the Undertaker, and it was truly an awesome entrance. And the match isn't that great, honestly, but it's a moment in time, and once again adds to the credibility of the Undertaker, man, as his streak would continue on.
Digging holes and taking souls.
Damn straight. Also, let's talk about this. How about your WrestleMania debut for another all-time great, the WrestleMania debut of You Can't See Me, John Cena. You could see him on this show. He was on the opening matchup against the Big Show for the United States Championship. Actually, it's a pretty good opener, I think.
I enjoyed this, actually.
I always enjoyed when Cena went against the Big Show one-on-one, and there's a lot of I love the Big Show, but there's a lot of Big Show. There's only certain guys that work with him that I really enjoy watching, and John Cena is definitely one of them. But this was kind of the kickoff of John Cena's like first real big singles push, because this would be his first singles title he ever won in the WWE by winning the United States Championship. And oh, how ironic we come all the years later. WrestleMania 39, he's back at it, going up against Austin Theory for the U.S. title. But yeah, that was your opener. Let's talk about the rest of the matches on this card. And CR, I got to give you credit. There are some shit shows of like matches that just really like just got put on here that shouldn't be on here. First off, there was not one but two fatal four-way matches for the Raw and SmackDown tag team titles, respectively. In the Raw one, you had Rob Van Dam and Booker T, who were the champions, going against Garrison Cade and Mark Jindrak. Yeah, I know. Who the hell are you talking about? The Dudley Boys and La Resistance. And, of course, the Rob Van Dam and Booker T would retain their tag titles, which is like, Rob Van Dam and Booker T were tag champions? Yes, they were, kids. And the other tag team fatal four-way was Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty as tag champions, going up against the world's greatest tag team of Shelton Benjamin, Charlie Haas, APA, and the Basham brothers. And Rikishi and Scotty would retain. Also, you had this classic about a Playboy evening gown matchup. Yikes. Stacy Keibler. Yeah, it was a different time, folks. It's not like how it is now, thank God. Because this was just Tori Wilson and Sable against Miss Jackie and Stacy Keibler, just to get him on the show for some TNA. It's like sad, but this was that time frame was different for women's wrestling. But thank God it's not like that anymore. But there was another women's matchup on this card, and if this shows you. They were only going to have one women's matchup on this card, but God bless her, Molly Holly was willing to put her fucking hair on the line and get her head shaved bald just so she can compete at a WrestleMania. And that's what happened, is you got Molly Holly against Victoria for the women's title, and if Molly lost, she would get her head shaved, and that's what happened, essentially. But Molly Holly, a true pioneer. I don't even think this match got 5 minutes, really, because there's just so many matches on this damn card. I think there's like 13 on this card. Yeah, or 12. And then also you had a Cruiserweight Open for the Cruiserweight Championship that Chavo Guerrero ultimately would win. One match, though, of importance I do want to talk about. We got to talk about this one. Evolution going up against the Rock and Sock Connection in a handicap match. And this would be like Mick Foley's return to the ring after a couple of years of being off. And this would be the last time we'd see The Rock at a WrestleMania until 28. But ironically, it's just crazy to think about because they're going against Evolution, the team of Randy Orton, Batista, and Ric Flair. And just like think of the different generational talents in that ring. Like to see the matchups where you get to see The Rock go against Ric Flair or The Rock go up against Randy Orton. Or hell, I just realized this shit. At this WrestleMania, we got Black Adam against Groot. Or not Groot, against Drax the Destroyer. How about that? Think about that for a second. But that WrestleMania, like I say, that match was I like that matchup, honestly, on the card. But the other match we wanted to talk about, the other championship matchup, Latino Heat, Eddie Guerrero defending the WWE Championship against Kurt Angle. Such a good matchup, such a great one-on-one matchup. And Eddie and Kurt always had such phenomenal chemistry. And I'll never forget the finish of this because Eddie being Eddie, lying, cheating, and stealing, like where he had his boot unlaced and Angle like grabbed the boot to go put him in the ankle lock, and then like Eddie got him in a small package and won the match. Great match. But definitely this Mania is definitely known for that moment at the end of the night with Benoit and Eddie. And it's so sad too with the whole Benoit tragedy and Eddie passing away, just because I really think in hindsight this would be still one of those all-time great WrestleMania moments that we'd be talking about as like one of the greatest of all times. But now it's pretty much blacklisted because of the real life tragedies that happened with those two guys. Let me ask you guys, as we're going to wrap up here, what were your thoughts on WrestleMania 20?
I thought it was good. I didn't think it was great. I thought it had its moments. I didn't, looking at the card again, I don't understand why the Rock and Sock Connection and against Evolution was a handicap match, why it was 3-on-2. I don't know if they ever really explained that. I don't remember that being in the build for the match.
I think it was just so like all of Evolution would be represented on the card. That's kind of what I took away from it. Because really the build for this was Randy Orton against Mick Foley. That's what the feud was.
Legend Killer versus the Legend, I guess. But
yeah.
I mean, I find this WrestleMania to be one of the most frustrating because of that great moment that's etched in time with Chris Benoit and everything. And now I can't even go back and rewatch it because at the time when I watched it the first time, I did have tears rolling down my eyes. I thought it was so epic. I was like, this is incredible. They even brought Nancy and Daniel into the ring, which made it a little bit, it's a little bit more surreal. Then Eddie Guerrero comes into the ring, and it was a fantastic thing. And now you watch it again and you have tears rolling down your eyes out of anger instead of happiness. Because you're just like,
right now
this was a moment that, and so I have a hard time rewatching this WrestleMania for that very reason. I think it's because Nancy and Daniel are in the ring, and to me, that's the part that just gives me chills just thinking about it.
It's Shooting Star, you said it perfectly, man. It's that WrestleMania moment. If you go back and look on it now, you're crying, but you're crying for a completely different reason, man.
Yeah. 100%.
And you're right. It is probably the most frustrating moment just because it's something we should still be talking about, still enjoying. But just because of the real life tragedies, we don't. It's a hard one to watch.
Yeah, it really is. It's tough. And this was actually going to be the first Mania I got to go to. So if my parents made a deal, because I was 18 when this happened, or I had just turned 18. And my parents were like, if you make straight A's, we'll buy you tickets to WrestleMania in New York City. And you can go to WrestleMania and you can do whatever you want. But this was like before the days of StubHub, or StubHub was early on in the days. This was before Craigslist. You only had to go through Ticketmaster or Scalpers. And it sold out in like 15 minutes. And so I couldn't get any tickets. But looking back on it, I'm actually glad I missed this Mania because I didn't want the first WrestleMania I go to be this.
Such a tragic one.
Yeah, that ending with Benoit. So yeah,
it's like I say, it's a tough one to swallow, but it is a part of the history of WrestleMania. So
yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I think that is going to bring us to the conclusion here tonight of our very first Learning the Ropes here live on Cole TV. This was fun. It was good being on here. It's good having you both, Tyler and Shooting Star, with us here tonight. But as always, Mr. B-Roll, how do we finish Learning the Ropes?
With a little bit of Plug-a-Palooza. That's the only way to finish it. Once again, we thank you all so much for joining us over here on Cole TV. We cannot Thank you all enough. I'll pull the curtain back, and I'm going to say that this is probably the most watched episode in Learning the Ropes history. I would say. So
It's because
you
of
know,
us.
thank
It's
you.
because of me and Tyler.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
You guys
Exactly.
were the draw. Thank you again, Shooting Star Press. Thank you again, Tyler.wrestling. We appreciate you. Make sure you go follow these two awesome dudes on TikTok. Follow their podcast, whatever it may be. Make sure you check them out and whatever social media platforms they are on. And I don't know what's happened to XLJ the OG, but we'll keep on trucking. We have a huge week coming over to you at Cole TV. So now is the time to definitely hit that subscribe button and then make sure you turn on notifications because we have tons of content coming. We have 2 new series, Friday Night Movie Night in collaboration with the Gout Foundation, as well as the debut of PW60 here in just a little while. So it's going to be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, tons of wrestling content coming your way, and much more. But yeah, I mean, it's
Good
gonna
times ahead.
be good times ahead. The best is yet to come.
You're damn right it is. And I'm going to tell you something. You did a pretty good job tonight, B-Roll. And gentlemen, it was good having you on here. You did good. Rob Van Dam, what the hell you doing here? Don't you got a joint to smoke or something? Get the hell out of here.
Well,
We
you-
can't
you-
talk about drugs on YouTube.
You
But
said
he
my
was talking
name.
about like something else. So yeah, pay no attention, folks. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I didn't say that. Damn. There you go. Thanks, Ron. Ron did a good job tonight for the most part, other than his griping. But
Yeah.
I will say a good
Ron's-
producer would know that you can't mention drug usage on YouTube. So suck on that, Ron.
boy, I said you did an okay job. Now I'm gonna come through that, and I'm gonna put a hurting on you. Rob Van Dam, I'm coming for you next. Boy, we got a few going on here, RVD and Ron, but pay no attention to their shenanigans and tomfoolery and whatnot. But gentlemen, it's been a pleasure and a true honor having you on with us tonight. And we covered some great WrestleManias tonight, some bad ones, but some good ones as well. And boy, oh boy, next week's going to be a fun one, folks, because we are going to be talking about WrestleManias 21 to 30. A lot of good ones there, too. There are some bad ones, but there are some really good ones we're going to be diving deep into. And that's going to be a good episode. And I'll be here live next Sunday. Remember, in our new time slot, 7 p.m. And don't forget, later this week, we will have our Louisville Arcade Expo vlog coming to you this Wednesday. And B-Roll mentioned it earlier tonight. We got to mention it again. SweetDollFaceCreations.BigCartel.com to check out all the merch from Cole TV. And there's going to be some new merch coming out here soon, so stay tuned for that. But, gentlemen, do you have any parting or last words for us before we get off the air here tonight?
I guess I just want to say thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'll see you in 4 more tries, maybe. but,
Yes.
but no, it was a great time, and I definitely love to do it again. I just had a lot of fun. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. And where can we find you? We can find you on TikTok and the Instagrams.
TikTok, Instagram. I got a YouTube, and technically I got a Twitter too. But yeah,
Oh, the tweeter.
yeah, I don't tweet too much on there, but every so often.
Yeah, I don't really use the Twitter either. Mr.
It's a little
B-Roll.
toxic over there.
Yeah, you talk about toxic. Ay. And of course, our friend Shooting Star Press. Why don't you give us some places where we can find you, my friend, and your tag
Yeah,
team
you can-
partner?
You can find me on TikTok at Shooting Star Press. You can find me on Instagram, which I'm starting to build my Instagram now at Shooting Star Press. You can find our podcast, Two Dudes with Attitudes, right here on YouTube, youtube.com/@2dudeswithattitudes. We're 74 subscribers in. We're trying to get to 100 before WrestleMania. So that's our goal, to get 26 more between now and April 1st. So go follow us, go subscribe. We're also available on Twitch if you're more interested in Twitch, and we're also on Apple and Spotify as well. So we're everywhere. So there's no excuse not to listen to us. But it's me and My Wrestling Opinion is his name, MWO. Everybody loves MWO. So come check us out. If you like our TikToks, and we try to promote positivity, we try to promote. We just talk wrestling. That's really all we do. So come check us out, and yeah, come enjoy some WWE Wednesday or AEW Friday, because that's kind of what we discuss. So
Yep.
and
for those that,
thank you guys for having us too. I appreciate it for sure.
for those of you that are
Absolutely.
still in the chat, we got the link right there for you.
Yes.
Make sure you go check out Two Dudes with Attitudes. Like he said, they're getting really close to 100. So let's make this happen for them.
You've got 75 now.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. We're almost there.
And
Perfect.
just think about it, folks. Think of the exclusive content they're going to have from WrestleMania weekend. You're
Oh,
not
yeah.
going to want to miss that.
Yeah,
That
that's
is
Yeah, we're
that
gonna
is
have some good
good
stuff.
quality stuff. Can't wait to see it, my friend.
Yeah, should be good stuff, and we're excited. And yeah, thank you all for coming with us on this ride.
Absolutely. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Learning the Ropes. Mr. B-Roll and myself, thank you all so much for joining us here tonight. We had a blast talking about WrestleManias. And don't forget, like we say, join us next week where we're talking WrestleManias 21 to 30. Can't wait to get into that conversation. Well, once again, thank you all for joining us this fine Sunday night. We hope you all have a wonderful and amazing week. And we will see you next week on a brand new episode of Learning the Ropes.